Previously, in Part 1, Akira Uchiha awakened a mysterious system that let him extract talents, skills, and power from others. And with it, he reshaped his destiny. From mastering the Sharingan to defeating elite enemies, his rise within the Uchiha clan began to shake the Shinobi world. But that was just the beginning. Now in Part 2, as whispers of Madara echo in the shadows, Akira unlocks new levels of power, faces deadly enemies, and confronts the cost of his growth. The world is watching, the storm is coming, and the Uchiha with the system is no longer just a genius. He may be a god in the making.
You're listening to Fanfiction Reader, where stories come alive through sound. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the tale.
Chapter 26. The decision of the Red Sand Scorpion. Uchiha had already been entangled with Sasori. For quite some time, he felt immense pressure. Sasori's fighting style was all about puppet mechanisms and deadly poisons. That wasn't surprising. Every puppet master operates that way, including Sasori's grandmother, Chiyo. But when it was Uchiha turn to face the strongest puppet master in history, he finally understood how terrifying Sasori, who could control hundreds of puppets, truly was. These puppets, under Sasori's red secret technique control, were incredibly agile. The overwhelming number of puppets, combined with countless mechanical blades, kept Yujin's nerves extremely taut. He focused with 12 parts concentration, using the Flying Thunder God technique's instant movement in the arena to dodge the attacks that filled his vision. Unlike Uchiha, who felt pressure, Sasori only felt utterly shocked, having already activated his red secret technique. Honestly, he thought to himself that destroying a small country would be effortless, let alone taking down a mere elite jonin. That's right, with Sasori's eyesight, he had long noticed that Uchiha's ninja proficiency was at most at the elite jonin level, far from a cage-level expert like himself. But this boy, despite his lack of strength, just relied on that troublesome ninjutsu to make him somewhat frantic. His red secret technique, he was already controlling nearly 300 puppets, whether it was fire, wind, earth, or blades. That boy on the opposite side would just flick a kunai, and the person would disappear. All those attacks would turn into useless efforts. For example, this time, when Sasori thought he had finally, with careful planning, trapped this boy like a turtle in a jar using his puppets. Whoosh! The Uchiha boy who had fallen into the trap easily escaped the meticulously set trap. This completely broke Sasori's composure. Damn it. How can there be such a shameless space ninjutsu in the world? It really was shameless. Sasori had already discovered that the enemy opposite him, that instant movement, required a kunai. He had long wanted to restrict this, but the Uchiha's throwing technique taught him another lesson. You simply couldn't restrict it. This throwing technique, which he couldn't understand, allowed the kunai to freely shuttle between his puppets. The Uchiha-style throwing technique, combined with that instant movement ninjutsu formula, allowed the Uchiha on the opposite side to only be able to hit others, while others couldn't hit him. When Sasori thought of this, he truly felt that this ninjutsu was too shameless. Yujin flickered in the air, dodging a large number of puppet attacks. Just as he caught his breath, hearing Sasori's complaint, he immediately grinned triumphantly at Sasori. What? Already throwing a powerless tantrum? He couldn't help but be triumphant. After this period of entanglement with Sasori, he was already very clear about what level his strength was truly at. The elite jonin strength rating on the panel couldn't be faked. But, with the Flying Thunder God technique, as long as he didn't do something decisive like the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, to cover a retreat, he could basically contend with Cage and Super Cage level experts for a bit. There was no other way. The Flying Thunder God technique was just that powerful. Even in Boruto, when fighting those gods, it was still a space-time ninjutsu fighting on the front lines. Also, can you not be so rude, saying your ninjutsu is shameless or whatever? Such words will only make people realize your weakness. Uchiha spewed trash talk, trying to affect Sasori's mindset. Besides, how could his Flying Thunder God technique, integrated into the Uchiha style, be called shameless? The truly shameless space-time ninjutsu, you had to look at Obito's Kamui. That was, in Yujin's heart, the most shameless space-time ability. Sasori didn't know about Yujin's thoughts, but the trash talk he heard really almost made him explode with anger. He was rude, saying these things would make people seem weak. You are the truly rude boy. Sasori's face was frosty at this moment. You're clearly a pathetic mouse who can only run away, and now you're putting on airs. Boundless malice surged from Sasori. just as he was about to continue attacking. High up in the distance, a signal flare unfamiliar to Sasori lit up. It was unfamiliar to Sasori, but very familiar to Yujin. That was the signal that the mission objective had been achieved and they could retreat. Thinking that he just had to hold on and entangle with him for a moment longer before being able to retreat, Yujin's spirits lifted. Looks like it's ending. Sasori heard Yujin's whisper and he sighed helplessly. To actually let Konoha succeed in the land of wind, in the capital city, that guy the third Hokage has truly lost face this time. He was happy to see the third Kaskage suffer a setback. He had always felt that it was because of the third Kaskage's negligence that Konoha was able to invade the land of Wind's homeland during the last Ninja World War, leading to the death of his parents. When he saw Sasori complaining about the third Kaskage at this moment, Yujin sharply dodged to a distance, just as he was about to raise his ninja sword, preparing to slash with the blade of fire. Kakashi in the distance sprinted over. Yujin, it's time to retreat. Kakashi saw the hundreds of puppets and Yujin by the side of the arena. Looking somewhat tired, his mindset immediately changed. Before coming, he had wanted to see if he could help, but now, seeing the overwhelming number of puppets, he calmly made the deduction that they should retreat. Hearing this, Yujin nodded towards Kakashi in the distance, indicating understanding. He pondered for a moment in his heart and immediately made a decision. Since even Kakashi had appeared here, it meant that while the mission objective had been achieved, the situation wasn't particularly tense. Therefore, now was the time for him to retreat. Thinking this, his figure flashed, and he rushed towards Kakashi at extreme speed. And when Sasori saw Kakashi, it felt like his brain was hit by a hammer. Konoha's White Fang, his enemy. He knew all of his information very well. So, when he saw Kakashi, he immediately recognized the son of his enemy. As the saying goes, the son repays the father's debt. When Sasori saw Yujin and Kakashi meeting up, he already reacted. These two are going to run. In this situation, how could he possibly hold back? You won't get away either, just obediently accept death. Sasori roared, commanding his puppets to attack Kakashi and Yujin. He didn't believe that space-time ninjutsu could instantly move people too. Boom boom boom! Countless puppets unleashed a large number of attacks. Blades, wind release, poisons, fire. In that instant, they all hit that area. But Sasori's face darkened. It can actually move people together? But the smoke cleared, and in the area that was hit, there was no longer any sign of that Uchiha or Kakashi. At this moment, Sasori now knew that the space-time ninjutsu could carry people. Hateful, hateful, hateful. The escape of his enemy's son suddenly reignited the feeling of revenge that he had only managed to suppress with great difficulty over the years. His gaze shifted towards where the third Kaskage was fighting. He looked at the iron sand flying everywhere over there. He sighed softly in his heart. It's all because of your negligence that my parents died, and it's all because of your carelessness this time that the situation has become like this. Thinking this, he seemed to have made some decision. He solemnly put away his puppets with a serious expression. He walked towards the place where the Kaskage was battling the enemy. #27 Chapter 27 Death of Kaskage. On the other side, Yujin and Kakashi successfully escaped the capital of the land of Wind. Yujin, being a cautious person, had prepared before this mission. He had long ago carved the Flying Thunder God technique seal outside the capital. The location, needless to say, was where the other small team was located. Just now, facing Sasori's attack, he directly brought Kakashi with him. Using the Flying Thunder God technique, he returned here. Presumably, that guy Akasuna no Sasori must be very speechless right now. Yujin felt a bit smug inwardly. However, he immediately cut off his thoughts. After returning to the camp, he and Kakashi also knew the mission was the priority. They immediately met up with Ikimichi Choza. Senior Choza, how are things? Have Senior Shibai and the others brought back the daimyo and his son? Everything went smoothly. Everyone is back except for Minato-kun. Hearing this, Yujin was a bit confused. The mission objectives had been secured. Shouldn't Minato and Namikaze have been able to easily get rid of the Kaskage's entanglement? Now everyone else had safely returned to the camp. Only Minato, who held the title of Yellow Flash, had not returned. Had some special situation occurred? Thinking of this, Yujin said to the people present, "You all know I possess the Flying Thunder God technique. Sensei Minato, what exactly is the situation over there? Let me go and take a look." Hearing Yujin's suggestion, Akimichi Choza's chubby face became serious. "Alright, Yujin, go and check immediately what's going on over there." There was no other way. For the Konoha people present, this was the optimal solution. The mobility of the Flying Thunder God technique As Konoha ninja, they were all very clear about it, especially since they had just witnessed Uchiha Yujin and Kakashi appearing out of thin air in the camp. With this ability, as long as it wasn't a rearguard action with the intent to die, it was essentially impossible for anything to go wrong. Hearing the response, Uchiha Yujin didn't waste words. His figure flashed and he vanished from the camp. Uchiha Yujin's figure reappeared in the city. Moving swiftly, he arrived at the place where Minato Namikaze and the third Kaskage had fought earlier. As soon as he entered this area, the scene that met his eyes greatly surprised Uchiha Yujin. Minato Namikaze was fighting Akasuna no Sasori. This wasn't the surprising part for him. What surprised him was that the third Kaskage, wearing a black cloak, was lying nearby, his body bruised and purple. The purplish-blue color of the skin made Uchiha Yujin understand. This guy had been poisoned. At this moment, Uchiha Yujin immediately analyzed the situation. Among the three people present, the one using potent poison. Needless to say, only Sasori the puppet master was skilled in this art. Therefore, if third Kaskage's collapse, there was no need to think further. It must have been Sasori's doing. Uchiha Yujin wasn't surprised by this either. In the original story, this guy also assassinated the Kaskage around this time. It was normal for him to go for the kill now. At this moment, the two fighting in the field also noticed Uchiha Yujin's arrival. Seeing this, Minato Namikaze raised his eyebrows and his expression began to relax. He shouted to Uchiha Yujin, go and check on the third Kaskage first. That's right, at this moment, Minato Namikaze was very worried about the third Kaskage's condition. He truly hadn't expected that this mission would encounter something like internal conflict within the Sand Village. This Sasori had attacked when he was fighting the Kaskage. He had ambushed the Kaskage from behind with a poison weapon. This was an outcome Minato Namikaze could not accept. If the Kaskage were to die during this mission, he knew without a doubt that regardless of whether the Sand Village could uncover the truth, this blame would absolutely be placed on Konoha. He was also very clear about the current state of the ninja world. If such a situation truly occurred, a major war would be unavoidable. It was precisely for this reason that he had been entangled with Sasori until now, to see if there was a turning point. Now, the turning point had indeed arrived. As soon as Uchiha Yujin appeared, he immediately called out, telling him to check on the Kaskage's condition. Hearing this, Uchiha Yujin didn't waste words. He flashed his body and rushed toward the third Kaskage. Fortunately, Sasori's attacks were all blocked by Minato Namikaze one by one. He arrived effortlessly beside the third Kaskage. Seeing the unconscious Kaskage, he immediately squatted down to examine him. This is not good. After the examination, Uchiha Yujin whispered. Raising his head, he urgently shouted to Minato Namikaze, "Sensei Minato, the Kaskage's condition is bad. If he's not treated soon, he'll die in at most 10 minutes. Then Uchiha Yujin, take Lord Kaskage to our camp and have the medical ninja treat him with all their might." Yes, Uchiha Yujin, accepting the order, lifted the third Kaskage onto his shoulder and was about to leave the battlefield. And when Sasori saw this situation, how could he hold back? He had finally seized the opportunity to ambush the Kaskage, not to mention the hatred in his heart. After completing his research on human puppets, he had long coveted the strongest Kaskage. "You won't take the Kaskage," he shouted, unleashing a desperate stance. His extra-mechanical hand took out a scroll. With a bang, a massive number of puppets appeared out of thin air. Red secret technique, performance of 100 puppets fully activated. Unlike the previous fight with Uchiha Yujin, where he only used 100 puppets, now Sasori, with his heart burning with urgency, had brought out his entire arsenal. A total of over 300 puppets opened their mechanical hands. They fiercely lunged towards Uchiha Yujin and the third Kaskage, and Minato Namikaze in the distance was also helpless. All of his killing moves were highly mobile. Against the hundreds of puppets Sasori brought out, he had no way to clear them out with ninjutsu. Anxious, he could only try to destroy more puppets with a single target Rasengan while flashing around. Uchiha Yujin, who was directly facing all of Sasori's firepower, facing this situation, was just about to activate the Flying Thunder God technique to escape. Then he thought of a critical issue. The Flying Thunder God technique's spatial movement is coordinate-based. Although it doesn't require extreme physical toughness like the Hidden Cloud Village teleportation technique, it still has some physical requirements. After all, this technique has high demands on the moment of landing. This is why the Hokage Guard platoon members in the original story, who had learned this technique, were accurate in movement but awkward in its application. All of the above is enough to show that the Flying Thunder God technique is stable, but not so stable that it has absolutely no effect on the body. That would be fine. But then Uchiha Yujin also discovered that the third Kaskage was poisoned with a neurotoxin. and carrying a person who had been hit in the kidney from behind, poisoned with a potent neurotoxin, and whose poison had already spread throughout their entire body, and performing coordinate movement while in a bumpy state. Sorry, common medical sense told Uchiha that this would directly kill the Kaskage. After all, a person in such a state needs to be handled with extreme care by a professional doctor, even just positioning them. Task, this is troublesome. Uchiha clicked his tongue. Unable to use the Flying Thunder God technique, he activated the Uchiha-style body flicker technique. He used this to dodge Sasori's attacks. Just then, an unexpected situation occurred. Several sand ninja appeared in the outer perimeter of the battlefield. In their eyes, the Konoha ninja had captured their Lord Kaskage, and Lord Sasori was desperately trying to rescue Lord Kaskage. So, they shouted loudly, "Damn Konoha ninja, release Lord Kaskage." What's the use of shouting? Use ninjutsu to stop him. These sand ninja reacted immediately and all activated wind release ninjutsu. Multiple wind release ninjutsu with cutting and impact force came at Uchiha from in front of him. Facing this situation where he was between a rock and a hard place, with enemies in front and behind, and still carrying a paralyzed person, Uchiha felt unprecedented pressure. Suddenly, among the puppets chasing him from behind, one puppet changed. That puppet's body suddenly elongated. This elongated body instantly caught up to Uchiha. The puppet's hand swung. A sharp blade pierced through the third Kaskage on Uchiha shoulder. But I was careless. Uchiha expression suddenly became grim. Now, it was basically impossible for the Kaskage to survive. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. #28 Chapter 28 Return to Konoha. At this moment, Uchiha understood the current situation. There was no saving the Kaskage in this state. Though, his heart moved. As Yujin carried the third Kaskage over his shoulder, a hidden wind release nature transformation chakra subtly emerged. As everyone knows, wind release chakra nature transformation, even if it doesn't form a ninjutsu, it will still be incredibly sharp. That sharp wind release chakra, under Uchiha manipulation, thump, pierced the third Kaskage's heart. That wasn't all. The chakra that entered the Kaskage's body moved towards his head. Before long, it completely shattered the third Kaskage's brain. That's right. Uchiha had quietly delivered the killing blow to the third Kaskage. Since he couldn't be saved anyway, it was better to benefit himself. Moreover, the third Kaskage had been poisoned and now had his body pierced by Sasori's puppet. They themselves couldn't immediately get him treatment. Minato Namikaze also came into view. The reality was, the Kaskage was dead. Since this Kaskage was going to die no matter what happened, it was better for him to gain a considerable amount of combat value. With Uchiha small action, the third Kaskage thus went to the Pure Land. On his own system panel, he also harvested 1,000 points of combat value. When Yujin saw the combat value, he felt utterly refreshed. 1,000 points was a huge sum, the most he had seen since awakening his past life memories a few months ago. However, when the corner of Yujin's Sharingan caught sight of the wind release in front and the puppet behind forming a pincer attack on him, he knew this was not the time to think about such things. Cutting off his thoughts, he decisively abandoned the third Kaskage corpse and threw a Flying Thunder God technique kunai towards Minato Namikaze. Whoosh! Activating the Flying Thunder God technique, Yujin instantly vanished from here. Immediately after, his figure appeared beside Minato Namikaze. Uchiha lowered his eyes and said to Minato Namikaze with a look of shame, "The third Kaskage was hit by a neurotoxin just now. I couldn't use the Flying Thunder God technique to move with him. I'm very sorry." Sensei Minato, Lord Kaskage couldn't be saved. Hearing this, Minato Namikaze also nodded helplessly, indicating understanding. "It's okay, Yujin. Since it was impossible, let's leave." There was nothing they could do. The situation just now, in his eyes, was indeed like that. Yujin, unable to move using the Flying Thunder God technique while carrying a burden, was caught in a pincer attack, and the Kaskage was successfully ambushed by Sasori. It was basically impossible for him to survive. Since things had come to this, thinking about it was useless. Minato Namikaze's expression turned serious. He lowered his eyes and said in a deep voice, "In that case, Yujin, let's retreat. Right now, it's more important to get back to the village in time to report this situation to Hokage-sama, so the village can prepare." Uchiha saw that Minato Namikaze didn't seem to have any doubts. He breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Upon hearing the order to retreat, he immediately activated the Flying Thunder God technique. Whoosh! He disappeared from here. Seeing this, Minato Namikaze took a deep look at Sasori, and also vanished on the spot. As Uchiha Yujin and Minato Namikaze returned to the camp, the morale of the Konoha people was greatly boosted. However, at this moment, everyone's gaze was tightly fixed on the young boy standing shoulder to shoulder with Minato Namikaze, Uchiha Yujin. Through this mission, everyone seemed to be getting to know him anew. This young boy from the Uchiha clan had already caused quite a stir in the village recently. In that mission, he defeated Biwa Juzo, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and seized the executioner's blade, one of Kirigakure's treasures. More importantly, after gaining this fame, his identity as a Uchiha belonging to the Hokage's lineage attracted even more attention. All of this had given the Konoha clan ninja and civilian ninja a clear understanding of this Uchiha Yujin. A genius star of the Uchiha clan was rising rapidly in Konoha, but at this moment, everyone present, except for Kakashi, Obito, and Rin, who already knew Yujin had learned the Flying Thunder God technique before the mission, and knew how powerful he was. Everyone else was shocked by Uchiha Yujin's formidable strength, especially those who often acted with Minato, Akimichi Choza, and Shibuya Burane. At this time, the two gathered together, their eyes looking at Yujin and Minato, who were surrounded by the crowd in the center. I really didn't expect that Minato's disciple, this young Uchiha boy Shibuya Burane, frowned and sighed softly, could actually entangle Akasuna no Sasori. Although he already knew when Minato assigned the mission, that Uchiha Yujin would definitely complete the mission. But when the true reality was placed before him, only then did he realize this young boy had truly held back Akasuna no Sasori, a ninja comparable to a cage. This reality that made one feel dazed at this moment made him feel just how vast the gap between people could be. He was 12 years old, entangling a shadow-level expert. What was he doing when he was 12 years old? Hearing Shibuya Burane, his old friend of many years, sigh with such emotion, Akimichi Choza also nodded in strong agreement. He stared intently at Yujin. Yes, after so many years, the Uchiha are truly about to produce a figure that will shake people's hearts. Presumably, after this mission, the various clans in Konoha will begin to re-examine the Uchiha. Unlike the Iberian clan, which is somewhat on the periphery among Konoha's ninja clans, as the Ino Shikacho, who have a good relationship with the Sarutobi clan, for them, who have cultivated their influence in Konoha's core for many years, they were even more aware how much turmoil the emergence of an outstanding Uchiha would cause. The Uchiha clan had been in decline for many years. In recent years, only Uchiha Fugaku was somewhat noteworthy. The rest were all mediocre. Now, a young boy who can contend with a shadow-level expert has appeared. His identity is also a legitimate disciple of the Hokage lineage. Thinking of this, Akimichi Choza sighed. Wind is about to rise in Konoha. Next, the rescue team quickly retreated, successfully obtaining the mission objective, with no casualties among the team members. All this showed that this mission was a great success. What ninja need is efficiency. They immediately left the Land of Wind. After escorting the daimyo and his son of the Land of Rivers back to the Land of Rivers daimyo's residence, this rescue mission team returned to Konoha at an extremely fast speed. Regarding this, Yujin had some guesses. Minato's earlier attempt to save the third Kaskage showed that he also sensed the current atmosphere in the ninja world was very delicate. With the Kaskage's death this time, if Sasori was smart, he would silence the sand ninja who intercepted him. Then he would pin the blame squarely on Konoha. Konoha would be completely unable to defend itself. Minato Namikaze now should want to return quickly to inform the higher-ups of the situation, to prepare everyone to deal with the coming storm. Things did indeed happen as Uchiha Yujin had thought. Upon returning to Konoha, Minato Namikaze hastily said they were dismissed on the spot, and rushed straight to the Hokage building. A cup of tea's time later, in the Hokage office, hers and Sarutobi's eyes widened, and he urgently asked Minato Namikaze, "Minato, what you just said, you weren't lying to me, were you?" He could hardly believe his ears. The Kaskage was actually killed by their own people, Akasuna no Sasori, during their rescue mission. He knew, without thinking, that Konoha was definitely taking the blame for this. "That's right, Lord Third," Minato Namikaze replied to Hiruzen with a resolute tone. Hearing this, Hiruzen Sarutobi began to smoke his pipe in frustration. At this moment, in the office, an old man with a gloomy aura all over him began to speak. 29 Chapter 29 Danzo shock Hiruzen. As for that Kaskage guy, it doesn't matter if he's dead. They've never been particularly honest anyway. But what's going on with this Uchiha Yujin? Can you explain to Danzo in detail why he became Minato's disciple? Danzo Shimura could hardly believe what had happened in Konoha during the months he led Root on missions outside. while causing trouble for the 4 great Shinobi villages and creating internal strife in Hidden Rain Village. These changes in Konoha. Look, the moment he returned to Konoha and sat down in Hiruzen's office, what did he hear? Minato Namikaze rescuing the land of Rivers Daimyo and his son, the death of the Kaskage. Uchiha Yujin tying down the famous Akasuna no Sasori. There's nothing to say about the rescue mission, it was completed beautifully. As for the Kaskage's death, as a hawk, he felt nothing about the Kaskage's death. But what's going on with that Uchiha Yujin? Becoming Minato's disciple, not to mention entering the Hokage's lineage of master and student. This Uchiha Yuma, unexpectedly, is also the strong kind. Look at what level this Uchiha Yuma is. 3 Tomo Sharingan at 12 years old? Using the Flying Thunder God technique in battle against Akasuna no Sasori not long after learning it? Wait, that's not the point. The point is, why had he never heard of such a Uchiha genius before? Thinking of this, his expression changed drastically. He continued impatiently, also, why haven't I heard of such a genius before? Could this guy, becoming Minato's disciple, be a trap set by the Uchiha? Are they trying to use this to covet the Hokage seat? That's right, it must be this way. Only this way can it explain such a genius appearing at this time, as if he popped out of a rock. It must be that seeing him busy outside, the Uchiha released this little brat. After all, in the entire Konoha, all the ninja clans, all the Jonin, who doesn't know, he is the one who targets the Uchiha the most. With him around, they definitely wouldn't dare to pull these little tricks. However, while Danzo Shimura was still wildly guessing, as his bond, Hiruzen Sarutobi shook his head and chuckled, denying Danzo's idea. You're thinking too much, Danzo. The Uchiha don't have that kind of brain. As for this boy Yujin, Hiruzen Sarutobi pulled open a drawer and took out a ninja file. You read this file first. With a slat, Danzo Shimura impatiently snatched the file from his hand. Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't mind this rude behavior. What Danzo just said, honestly, he was also very shocked. He had watched this little brat become like this. Just a few months ago, he was still a very immature ninja. Not long ago, he was still shocked by how quickly he could learn various ninjutsu, kill Biwajuzo, and rapidly grow into a 3 Tomo Sharingan upon awakening it. He felt that this little brat would be like Uchiha Madara, an exceptional talent who awakened his Sharingan late but immediately soared. At the time, he guessed that this immediately would have to be calculated in years at least. Who would have thought? It hasn't even been a month since he killed Biwajuzo. Uchiha Yujin is now putting on a show of contending with shadow-level powerhouses. This boy is truly somewhat terrifying. Fortunately, he is his disciple's disciple. As for Danzo Shimura's rude behavior, Minato Namikaze felt a slight dissatisfaction in his heart. He rarely interacted with this elder Danzo. He was like a stranger he had heard of, seen, but never talked to. He knew that person disliked the Uchiha, but to dislike them to this extent was truly surprising. His disciple, Uchiha Yujin, his growth curve is indeed astonishing. His current strength is also truly impressive. But is now the time to discuss his disciple. The death of the Kaskage is the headache, isn't it? This is the national matter, isn't it? This elder Danzo's breadth of mind is perhaps too narrow. Does he even have the will of fire in his heart? At this moment, Minato Namikaze's heart was very resistant toward this elder Danzo. So, wanting to pull the topic back, he raised his eyes and looked at the 3rd Hokage. Hokage-sama, let's think about what the situation in the ninja world will be like after the Kaskage's death. Hearing this, Hiruzen Sarutobi slapped his head. It was all Danzo's fault for diverting his thoughts. As the Hokage, this is the more important matter right now. That's right, this is the important matter now. Wait for me a moment. I'll notify Koharu and Himura to come over. Setting aside the Konoha leadership discussing how the ninja world situation will develop after the Kaskage's death, at this time, the ninja clans with slightly better intelligence all knew about Yujin, who played a crucial role in this rescue mission. Konoha Village. At the core residence of the Hyuga clan. Is this intelligence true? Hyuga Hayashi asked his younger brother, Hyuga Hisashi, with an expression of disbelief. He simply couldn't believe that Uchiha Yujin, who had already entered the Hokage's lineage, would be so strong. Before, when he heard that 2 Uchiha members had entered the Hokage's line, he was already very uncomfortable. Now, someone is telling him, this Uchiha boy who apprenticed into the Hokage's line is also a powerhouse who has already grown up. Isn't this clearly a candidate for the Hokage election? 20 years later, accumulating enough seniority, coupled with his powerful strength, this potential to become Hokage is truly concerning to him. After becoming the Hyuga clan head, he found that the Senju had completely gone silent. The Uchiha had also begun to decline. he was preparing to compete with the Uchiha for the title of Konoha's strongest clan. As a result, this thought hadn't been around for long when a Uchiha Yujin appeared. Hearing his brother's shocked, doubtful tone, Hisashi, who knew his inner thoughts, spoke with some bitterness to explain. This was told to me by a ninja from the rescue team who is on good terms with us. Is that so? It seems the intelligence isn't wrong. Hayashi frowned and let out a long sigh. For such a figure to appear, the Uchiha are truly lucky. He was also very helpless internally. It seems his private thought of competing with the Uchiha for the title of Konoha's strongest clan must be temporarily postponed. Uchiha Yujin dragged his tired body, returned home and slept well. The next morning, full of energy, after eating breakfast he pushed open his room door, planning to go to a quiet training ground to take stock of his gains after this mission. However, before he even left the clan compound, he noticed something that left him puzzled. Every time he encountered a security force patrol team, these guys would look at him with the eyes reserved for rare animals. After passing yet another patrol team looking at him with such eyes, Yujin finally couldn't hold back and stopped them. After politely greeting them, he asked with a smile, Seniors, what exactly is going on? Many clan members today are looking at me with strange eyes. Among the stopped patrol team, a brown-haired Uchiha youth took a step forward. He stared at Yujin with interest. You don't know? What do I need to know? Uchiha Yujin, you've become famous. #30 Chapter 30 Manjikayo Sharingan. Uchiha Yujin's mind was a bit frozen at this moment. Waking up from the sleep, what exactly happened? Senior, what is your name? Also, what do you mean I've made a big name for myself? Uchiha Yujin politely asked the person opposite his name before inquiring about what happened. Ha, a polite boy. The brown-haired young man laughed heartily, pointing to himself. My name is Uchiha Yashiro. Uchiha Yashiro was very pleased with Uchiha Yujin's politeness. As the deputy head of the security force, Uchiha Yashiro's reputation within the Uchiha clan was not small. As for this Uchiha Yujin, to be honest, using the phrase sudden rise to describe him is perfect. Awakening the Sharingan, siding with clan head Fugaku, slapping elder Satsuna's face, killing Biwajuzo. He had also heard about these situations. However, as Uchiha, everyone was a bit proud and arrogant. As for Uchiha Yujin's achievements at that time, most people weren't very impressed. They felt that slapping elder Satsuna's face was nothing. Killing Biwajuzo, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, was also not worth mentioning. The elites of our security force, if not restricted by the village, could freely leave the village for missions and achieve the same as you. Uchiha Yujin, the only thing that makes us look up to you is becoming part of the Hokage's master-disciple lineage. This gave the Uchiha hope of becoming Hokage, and it was a symbol of the village showing goodwill. Previously, Uchiha Yashiro had the same thoughts. Who would have thought? During this mission, the Hidden Sand Village directly gave this boy a title. You should know, having a title and not having a title are 2 different concepts for a ninja. With one, you are a true powerhouse. That wasn't all. In the Hidden Sand Village's announcement, they also informed the entire ninja world about his space-time ninjutsu that allowed him to move instantly. That should be the Flying Thunder God technique. Others might not know how powerful this technique is, but the Uchiha, who have been hurt by it, know it best. This is a technique that can contend with the Manjikayo Sharingan. The Uchiha Yujin before him, in a short period, gained power and fame. What else could this be but a sudden rise? Thinking this, he smiled warmly at Uchiha Yujin. As for the big name you've made, I'll explain it to you slowly. In the time that followed, as Uchiha Yashiro explained, Uchiha Yujin roughly understood the situation. When their rescue team returned to Konoha, Akasuna no Sasori wasn't idle either. Returning to the Hidden Sand Village, he directly pinned the blame for the Kaskage's death onto Minato Namikaze. At this moment, the title Yellow Flash completely resounded throughout the ninja world. That what? One of the few achievements of a single person killing a Kage. The ninja world couldn't help but be shocked. And Uchiha Yujin, who blocked Akasuna no Sasori and played an important role in this mission, also made a name for himself. Given that Uchiha Yujin was also a user of the Flying Thunder God technique, the Hidden Sand Village directly gave him the title Flying Thunder God Yujin. Flying Thunder God Yujin. After hearing Uchiha Yashiro's explanation, Uchiha Yujin pointed to himself with an awkward expression. They really call me that. Heaven have mercy. By rights, shouldn't this be Shisui's title? Is it really okay that I stole it? Seeing Uchiha Yujin's somewhat awkward expression, Uchiha Yashiro was a bit confused. What's wrong, Uchiha Yujin? Is this title not good? It's clearly very cool. Hearing this, Uchiha Yujin rolled his eyes inwardly. Putting that aside, Senior Uchiha Yashiro, thank you for the explanation. I have something to do, so I'll be leaving now. Saying his farewells, he waved goodbye to the seniors and flashed towards the training ground. Uchiha Yujin truly hadn't expected that the plot would begin to change at this moment. In Uchiha Yashiro's explanation just now, there was one point that gave him a headache. Because Sasori was able to successfully blame the Kaskage's death on Konoha this time, he didn't need to defect from the hidden sand village like in the original story. Since he didn't become a rogue ninja, considering his charm that allowed him to have spies within the village for 20 years after his defection, plus a grandmother Chiyo who doted on him, this guy might just become the fourth Kaskage now. However, with the Kaskage dead, the outbreak of the Third Shinobi World War should be within this period. His focus from now on is how to survive. Uchiha Yujin, having sorted out his thoughts, quickly arrived at the training ground. In the quiet forest, Uchiha Yujin sat cross-legged. With a thought, his mind floated to the panel that only he could see. Host, Uchiha Yujin gender, male age, 13 strength, cage traits, God's power red, child of spacetime gold, genius gold, fate of illusion gold, Uchiha purple, lava release purple, steel training purple, Sharingan blue, fire release blue, wind release blue, yin release blue, Uchiha style blue, natural energy affinity blue, vampiric immortality blue, flying thunder god technique blue, combat value 1170. The appearance of the panel strongly attracted Uchiha Yujin's attention, especially the acquisition of combat value 1170 points, of which 1000 points were contributed by Lord Kaskage just now. 100 points were gained from sparring with Kakashi before the mission. The remaining 70 points were left over from before. Uchiha Yujin already had an idea of how to use these points. He was Uchiha. What is the Uchiha's strongest ability? Is it fire release? No. Is it the flashy combat style of Uchiha's style? No. What is it then? It's the Sharingan, especially the Manjikayo Sharingan. When every Uchiha unleashes this god's power hidden deep within their eyes, their strength will undergo earth-shattering changes. So he had nothing else to think about. Upgrading the Sharingan is a must. Thinking this, Uchiha Yujin's thought moved. Trait extraction system. Upgrade my Sharingan to the purple trait level. He was very confident that the Sharingan at the purple trait level, with the Manjikayo level, as Uchiha Yujin's thought fell, the combat value on the panel flickered, directly changing from 1170 to 170, and the Sharingan blue on the panel also changed. Manjikayo Sharingan purple. This is the blessing of the divine tree. Your eyes will be different. Special power will descend upon your eyes. Effect. All Sharingan abilities are comprehensively and greatly enhanced. Special abilities are brewing within your mind. Uchiha Yujin felt that his eyes had undergone earth-shattering changes. The power of his eyes was completely different from before, like heaven and earth. However, the panel shows that special abilities are still brewing within my mind. That must be my eye technique. Thinking this, Uchiha Yujin's gaze looked at the only red trait on the panel. God's power red. The Manjikayo he awakened was forcibly elevated by the system. His mind at this time didn't have any major stimulation. The eye technique was basically a gamble. If he gambled well, then he would take off directly, just like Uchiha Obito. If he gambled poorly, then it would be a trashy eye technique like Uchiha Shin's. Fortunately, he possessed Uchiha Obito's trait. This unique red trait would give him the greatest guarantee. Thinking this, Uchiha Yujin's thought descended. The trait's God's power red shattered with a crack on the panel. The red fragments began to flow on the panel, flowing towards the trait Manjikayo Sharingan purple. When the red trait fragments touched the Sharingan trait, Uchiha Yujin felt what his eye technique was. #31 Chapter 31 Super powerful eye technique. Yujin's eye ability is very direct. Left eye, Ikemokuren. Right eye, Amano Murakumo. The Ikemokuren of the left eye is slightly more complex in function. This eye ability is able to limit the originally infinite future into a result of only one. That is to say, once he decides to cut off the opponent's arm, then all the methods he uses will become the most reasonable slashes, thereby cutting off the opponent's arm. And the eye ability Amano Murakumo of the right eye is very simple and crude. When this eye ability is activated, it can emit a burst of sword light from the eyes. As long as his eyes can see, that sword light can directly cut in half the abstract concepts like time, space, non-karma, and inherent karma that are captured upon understanding his own eye ability. Invincible 3 words appeared in Uchiha Yujin's mind. Ikemokuren limits the enemy's most unfavorable future, and Amano Murakumo can cut through everything. Thinking about it, having these 2 eye abilities, he will also become the first person in the ninja world to kill enemies with eyes. Uchiha Yujin, with his Manjikayo Sharingan open, came to a pond. He looked into the clear and secluded pond. He saw that in his eye sockets, within those scarlet Sharingan, the 3 Tama were long gone. Only slightly complex patterns blossomed brilliantly in his eyes. Straight Tama patterns? Well, my eye abilities are all direct power types. There isn't a single genjutsu, so it's obviously not the curved Tama pattern. He was very satisfied with his eye ability, and the main Jikayo pattern was also quite good. However, his transformation was not limited to eye ability. At this moment, Uchiha Yujin could feel that after the main Jikayo Sharingan appeared, his body felt like it had unlocked some kind of shackles, as if a large amount of potential would erupt from the depths of his body. Yujin clenched his fists and murmured to himself, "Absolutely right, every Uchiha, after awakening the main Jikayo, can become a shadow-level expert." Indeed, it's not just the reason for the eye ability. There are also changes in the body. He could feel that his chakra would significantly increase in the coming period. I can feel it. My guardian deity is about to take shape. Susanoo, the guardian deity of the Uchiha, an ability that everyone who awakens the main Jikayo will possess. This ability is also very strong, but he needs to master these one by one. His next goal is, before the outbreak of the Third Great Ninja War, during this period of Minato's team's recuperation, to consolidate the power of the main Jikayo and become a true shadow-level expert. Uchiha Yujin, having cleared his thoughts, began his formal training here. Land of Water, Hidden Mist Village. In the Mizuki's office, the aging third-generation water shadow picked up a piece of intelligence from the desk. That little brat who killed Biwa Juzo actually did such a big thing. Participated in the mission regarding the Kaskage's death? At this moment, Genma, who was assisting the Mizuki, sighed faintly. This Uchiha Yujin, if I remember correctly, he's the one who killed Biwa Juzo, right? Genma was very shocked. This Uchiha Yujin had only recently killed their prominent ninja, and now he was involved in the mission regarding the Kaskage's death. The intelligence from Hidden Sand Village stated it clearly. This Uchiha Yujin, like his leading teacher, possesses the ability of instantaneous movement. As an old-timer, Genma knew very well. That was the Flying Thunder God technique of the Senju of the forest. This jutsu was a ninjutsu that could contend with the Uchiha's main Jikayo Sharingan. And if he wasn't mistaken, the intelligence showed this Uchiha Yujin was only around 13 years old. At this age, to be this strong, plus the Flying Thunder God technique. If this little brat awakens the main Jikayo Sharingan in the future, will the ninja world gain a new Shinobi world Asura, or a new ninja god? Thinking of this, how could Genma sit still? He urgently said to his old partner, the third-generation Water Shadow. Lord Water Shadow, at this stage, our intelligence on Konoha should focus on this Uchiha Yujin. We must collect all his information. Genma, wise with age, had a very direct idea. Collect all information about this person and know his preferences. In case this Uchiha Yujin really grows to that level in the future, they would know how to cater to his tastes. To preserve Hidden Mist Village. Genma, why do you want to do this? My idea is like this. Hearing the Mizuki's question, Genma explained the thoughts he had just had. After listening to the explanation, a red light flashed in the third-generation Water Shadow's eyes. Yes, I am also a ninja who came from that era. We should indeed consider how we should position ourselves if another powerful ninja like this appears in the Uchiha clan. Then future intelligence will focus on this boy. Hearing this, Genma nodded with relief. However, what he didn't see was, in the center of the pupil in the third-generation Water Shadow's eyes, a little bit of deep red began to squirm. On the other side, in a gloomy mountain cave, a white-haired old man with a terrifying aura let out a soft hum. Hearing his puzzled sound, the strange person beside him, whose body was half white and half black, asked the old man, Madara, "What's wrong? Interesting. Interesting." Uchiha Madara chuckled, glancing at the strange person, Zetsu. An interesting little brat has appeared in the Uchiha clan. That's right, for the past few decades, he had been controlling the third-generation Water Shadow with Genjutsu. Meaning, whatever the Mizuki knew, he knew. The intelligence report that the Mizuki had just seen. He had also seen it by linking through the Mizuki's eye power. Uchiha Yujin, 12 years old, 3 Tamo Sharingan, and also learned that Trash Tabarama's Flying Thunder God technique. His track record was also impeccable, killing Biwa Juzo, fighting Akasuna no Sasori. Yes, an undeniable Uchiha genius. Madara admitted that at this age, he was not as strong as Uchiha Yujin. One simple point proves it. He was 15 years old when, due to his father's pressure, he was forced to cross swords with Hashirama. Only then did he awaken the Sharingan. And this boy, at 12 years old, already had the 3 Tamo, and possessed the troublesome jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. He knew how difficult this jutsu was. Izuna, who had the Mangekyo, was killed by the despicable Senju Tobirama using this jutsu. This child's talent is truly somewhat terrifying. In any case, he must be observed. Observe his personality and see if it will affect his plan. Whether he can become the successor to his great plan. #32 Chapter 32 Danzo's Plan. Madara, are you going to start selecting candidates now? Zetsu asked, surprised by Madara's command. Observe the Uchiha and choose an heir for Madara after he dies. As Madara's other half, he was aware of this plan. That's right, it's time to start this plan. Just so happens I got some interesting intelligence from the Hidden Mist village. Setsu asked with some interest, is it about that Uchiha Yujin? That's right. Next, Uchiha Madara began to answer Setsu's questions. He shared the intelligence he had obtained from the Hidden Mist village about Uchiha Yujin with Setsu. So that's it, I understand. I will immediately send White Setsu to start monitoring this Uchiha Yujin. Setsu said with a decisive tone. He couldn't help it. This Uchiha Yujin seemed a bit too outrageous to him. 12 years old and already this strong? How is this an ordinary Uchiha? Furthermore, Indra's chakra hasn't reincarnated yet. Where did this Uchiha Yujin come from? Very good. Since you're monitoring the Uchiha, take a look and see if there are any other good prospects as well. Yes, Madara. Setsu replied to Madara and then submerged underground. Madara watched Setsu leave. He turned his head to look at the outer path demonic statue behind him. He muttered to himself, everything is for peace. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it had been over a week since Yujin returned to Konoha. Now, even engrossed in training as he was, he knew about a major event. The Hidden Sand Village had officially declared war on Konoha with the excuse ready-made. Minato Namikaze killed the third Kaskage. In response, Konoha lodged a strong protest. But it was useless. The outbreak of this war was foreshadowed long ago. After the last Ninja World War, the problems in various countries were not resolved. The economy remained as sluggish as ever. When the economy is sluggish, the nobles' lives are not easy. When the nobles' lives are not easy, their hiring of ninja villages will also decrease. For ninja villages whose financial income relies 70% on mission shares, this was adding insult to injury. When the major ninja villages were all struggling, they looked at the center of the map. Good heavens, Konoha, you have all the advantages of timing, location, and people. No way, I'm going to come to you and stir up some trouble. Especially the poorest Hidden Sand Village. They had a ready-made excuse. Besides, except for Sasori, the other sand ninja truly believed that Konoha had killed the third Kaskage. Thus, the war broke out between Konoha and Tsunade. Still in the training grounds of the Death Forest, Yujin, who loved the quiet here, continued his training as usual. A week slowly passed, and his strength underwent a fundamental change. Regarding his eye techniques, since he didn't have the Eternal Eyes or Hashirama cells, he could only simulate their usage in his mind. However, his chakra, after a week of stable development, had undergone unprecedented growth. Now, he estimated his chakra reserves were about 100 units. This was equivalent to Naruto's chakra reserves at 12 years old. More importantly, with this much chakra, he didn't have to be like Naruto. He didn't have to use most of it to suppress the Nine-Tailed. Furthermore, the Sharingan at the Mangekyo level, even without using eye techniques, its insight, the amplification effect of Jinjutsu, and dynamic capture ability were greatly enhanced. These aspects were incomparable to the 3-Tomo Sharingan. Plus the special application of Susanoo I figured out myself. Yujin muttered to himself proudly. He couldn't help but be proud. A few days ago, when he sensed Susanoo, his status effects Genius Gold, Uchiha Purple, and Yin Release Blue had a linkage. The gold level Genius status effect and the purple level Bloodline status effect allowed him to activate the guardian deity inscribed in his bloodline, Susanoo, and the blue level Yin Release status effect also seemed to meet certain conditions. His Susanoo became different from that of ordinary Uchiha, without needing to show the Mangekyo pattern. Just with the 3-Tomo, Yujin could do the same as Madara. Directly activate Susanoo. This meant that in future battles, he, Uchiha Yujin, would be able to use Susanoo freely, just like having the Eternal Eyes, without suffering the side effect of blindness. A great benefit. A huge benefit. A Uchiha who can use Susanoo at will and a Uchiha who uses Susanoo sparingly are two different concepts, especially since he also knows the Flying Thunder God technique. A Susanoo that can teleport. He thought that his enemies would surely feel despair when facing him. At that moment, his strength had officially reached the shadow level, and he was in the stronger tier. With a thought, the panel displayed his current strength level. Host, Uchiha Yujin gender, male age, 12 years old strength, shadow level a 12-year-old shadow level expert compared to the gods in Boruto. is still very powerful. At this moment, facing the impending war, Uchiha Uchiha no longer felt any fear. On the contrary, he was even eager to try. Flying Thunder God technique ensures he won't die. Susanoo will make him a life reaper on the battlefield. Reaping lives means gaining combat points. Gaining combat points means upgrading status effects. Upgrading status effects means increasing his strength. How could he not be eager to try? Since awakening his past lives' memories, especially after awakening the Mangekyo, Yujin had discovered that hard training is not as satisfying as upgrading status effects. This is where his uniqueness lies. So, now I will no longer fear war. With that thought, he ended his training for the day. At the same time, in the root base in Konoha, Danzo Shimura held the detailed report on Uchiha Yujin and read it carefully again. The content on it sent chills down Danzo's spine. This Yujin, during his time at the ninja school and right after graduation, was a transparent ninja. His talent could be described as utterly unremarkable. Then came the part that made him tremble. In less than half a year, after he awakened the Sharingan, he became unstoppable. Not only did he quickly advance to the 3 Tamo, but his ability to learn ninjutsu also underwent a drastic change. Thinking of this, Danzo's mind had only one thought. Abnormal. Undoubtedly abnormal. As a disciple of teacher Tabarama, how could he not know the impact of the Sharingan on the mind? The speed at which this little brat awakened and advanced his Sharingan was too fast. This boy's mind must have undergone significant changes. However, the report stated that his personality was very normal. But, in Danzo's eyes, this was the greatest abnormality. Evil Uchiha Yuma, I will definitely find your weakness. Danzo stood up and paced around the room a few times. He thought about the current situation in the ninja world. After the Hidden Sand Village declared war on Konoha, the Hidden Mist Village, for some reason, also began to stir. Thinking of the Hidden Mist Village, he thought of water. And water is quite unfriendly to the Uchiha, who represent fire. At this moment, a flash of inspiration struck Danzo. That's right, the outbreak of war is inevitable. I just need to arrange this little brat to a place related to the Hidden Mist Village, then have my men assassinate him, and put the blame on the Hidden Mists. Wouldn't this major threat be solved? Thinking of this, he couldn't sit still anymore. He immediately headed to the Hokage building. #33 Chapter 33 Hiruzen's Relief Konoha Village, Hokage Building, Hiruzen Sarutobai's office. Bang! Danzo Shimura pushed the door open in a flurry. The Andu guarding nearby also acted as if they didn't see him. As those who frequently guarded here, they were well aware of the relationship between Elder Danzo and Hokage-sama. How could they not be clear? Hiruzen Sarutobai raised his head calmly upon hearing the commotion. He knew that without a prior announcement, the only person who would directly push open his office door was Danzo. Danzo? What's the matter that has you so anxious? When Danzo's anxious expression entered his sight, Hiruzen Sarutobai was immediately puzzled. Others might not understand Danzo, but how could he not? If it wasn't something important, Danzo wouldn't have this expression in front of him. Hearing Hiruzen Sarutobai's question, Danzo took a few deep breaths in a performative manner. Hiruzen, I believe everyone is aware of the Hidden Mist Village's actions. Upon hearing this, Hiruzen Sarutobai became even more confused. We've already discussed this issue before. Do you have any other questions? It's a big problem, Hiruzen. Danzo's expression turned serious, and his eyes fixed intently on Hiruzen's. We don't have enough commanders. The Hidden Mist Village side must have sufficient strength to guard the coastline. Then, Danzo took down the map hanging on the wall and placed it on Hiruzen Sarutobai's desk. He pointed to the Land of Fire's long and narrow coastline. Because of the coastline, this force must not only be strong but also have sufficient mobility. So what is your suggestion? Hiruzen Sarutobai was also troubled by this. Some time ago, Senegakure declared war. Seeing this, Iwagakure immediately sent troops to the border, looking ready to attack at any moment. Hidden Mist Village, for some unknown reason, also looked like it was stirring up trouble. And aside from himself, the village currently only had 3 capable commanders. That's right, his disciples. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. The problem was, due to her hemophobia, Tsunade could only command the medical system from the rear. Orochimaru needed to confront Senegakure. Jiraiya, needless to say, also had to take a certain number of troops to the border to guard against Iwagakure. Only on the Hidden Mist Village side was he truly at a loss. He had a backup plan in mind. If the war became severe, he planned to directly assign the Uchiha to the battlefield. As for the policy of confining the Uchiha to the security force, which teacher Tabarama had established and had been implemented for many years, it would have to make way for the war. Send out the Uchiha. They've been conserving their strength for so many years, it's time for them to play a role. Given the long and narrow coastline, Minato's disciple, Uchiha Yujin, also possesses the Flying Thunder God technique, so he must be sent there. At this moment, Danzo revealed his true intentions. He had already thought it through on the way here, directly suggesting that Uchiha Yujin defend Hidden Mist Village. Hiruzen would basically never agree, so he changed his approach and suggested that all the Uchiha participate. Incidentally, because of this little brat's uniqueness, he would also be included in this mission. Hiruzen would definitely have nothing to say. Furthermore, as Konoha's second-in-command, he was also very aware of Konoha's current predicament, and since the Uchiha had been conserving their strength for so many years, it was time for them to expend some. Upon hearing Danzo's suggestion, Hiruzen Tobi immediately felt relieved. Danzo was truly worthy of being his best bond, the route that turned into darkness, the person who supported him from behind. At this moment, Hiruzen Tobi decided he would also not let Danzo down in the future, as long as he didn't commit overly outrageous acts. Even if he didn't directly betray the village, even if he tried to assassinate him, he could tolerate it. Very well, let's arrange it that way. Hiruzen Tobi, in a great mood, immediately agreed to Danzo's counsel. Uchiha Yujin had been living quite comfortably during this time. The smooth progress in his training, the visible increase in his strength, all made his mood incredibly pleasant. This day, with a wonderful mood, he headed to the training ground agreed upon with Minato's team. According to Minato Namikaze's plan, they would train together for the coming period. Walking out of the clan compound, he was on the road. He was also contemplating his weaknesses. Undoubtedly, he was an ninjutsu-type Uchiha, similar to Sasuke. Both relied entirely on the Sharingan for Genjutsu and only needed their Taijutsu to be decent. However, with his tags, he was unwilling to be like this. He wanted to develop all three aspects, ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu. In terms of ninjutsu, it was sufficient for the current stage. For genjutsu and taijutsu, he also had corresponding plans. He wanted to improve his physique first. Therefore, the purple tag, steel training, obtained from Might Guy, became very significant. After all, the effect of this tag was very simple and direct. The explanation was just one sentence: persistent training will improve physique. He was very much looking forward to this, so he had already ordered custom-made weights a few days ago. Unexpectedly strenuous. Yujin ran all the way, and as he was nearing the training ground, he couldn't help but sigh. Well, Lee trained for many years to carry 500 pounds of weight. I'm starting directly with 1,000 pounds, so it's normal to feel a bit strenuous. He ran the entire way without using any chakra, completely relying on physical strength. Moreover, his situation was different from Lee's. His chakra capacity was very large. A large chakra capacity meant that in terms of physique, he would definitely not be weak. Instead, he was in the strong category. It was precisely because of this that he directly started by challenging 1,000 pounds of weight. Entering the training ground, Uchiha Yujin cut off his thoughts. He greeted the two people who came into view. Sorry, Kakashi, Rin, did I arrive a little late? It's fine. Rin and I are already used to you Uchiha being late, Kakashi said irritably, staring at Yujin with his dead fish eyes, lifelessly. Rin Nohara smiled somewhat reassuringly. Don't say that, Kakashi. Yujin-kun is on time. The only one who's always late is Obaido. Coincidentally, as the saying goes, speak of the devil and he shall appear. Indeed, just as Rin Nohara mentioned Obaido, Obaido arrived with his goggles on, looking hurried. Hot tilde, hot tilde, hot tilde, hot tilde. Uchiha Obaido supported himself with his hands on his knees, taking several deep breaths. After his breathing stabilized, he raised his head and apologized to the three of them. Sorry, I helped an old lady get home and it took a little time. Upon hearing this, the three of them didn't know what to say. If anyone else said this, it might be an excuse. But if Obaido said this, it meant he really did it. Next, as classmates, they didn't bother with pleasantries. They immediately began training. Not long after they started training, Kakashi stopped. He walked up to Yujin, who seemed to be doing warm-up exercises, and asked in a deep voice, "Are you wearing weights?" That's right. I'm wearing weights and planning to strengthen my taijutsu abilities. Uchiha Yujin lightly exhaled a breath of stale air, responding to Kakashi's question. Training taijutsu with weights, Kakashi advised Yujin. Weights shouldn't be used casually. I suggest you ask Guy about this. Yujin nodded, indicating he understood Kakashi's advice. After all, Kakashi didn't know about his unique aspect. Having the tags, he had discovered something special when doing taijutsu training. The tag effect, the so-called persistent training will improve physique, was actually instantaneous. He gained something even from training for a second. Just in this short time, he could sense that he had started to adapt a little to the 1,000 pounds of weight. At the very least, it wasn't as strenuous as when he first put them on this morning. However, Kakashi's advice also made him think. Since his tag ability was so extraordinary, should he perhaps learn some professional physical knowledge to maximize the benefits? An idea instantly flashed through Yujin's mind. Hash 34 Chapter 34 Medical Ninjutsu. As the saying goes, medicine and martial arts are inseparable. He wanted to understand the structure of the body and tailor a more efficient training method for himself. To maximize the power of the entry, he must thoroughly understand the human body. Good suggestion, Kakashi, but now I need to ask Rin some questions. Then, Yujin walked towards Rin Nohara, who was practicing medical ninjutsu outside the training ground. When Yujin arrived in front of Rin Nohara looked at Yujin with some confusion. Yujin-kun, is something wrong? Slap. Yujin tightly held Rin Nohara's hand. He requested in a serious tone, Rin-chan, I have a request. Yujin-kun, please speak. Rin Nohara responded nervously when she saw the usually calm Yujin treating her this way. Rin was also extremely nervous in her heart. What is Yujin-kun up to? She was just a medical ninja. In terms of combat, she didn't seem to be of much help, but looking at Yujin-kun's expression, it seemed to be an extremely serious matter. What exactly did he want to ask her for? Could it be what the person she liked was? Rin's face flushed, not knowing what she was thinking. Rin-chan, please teach me medical ninjutsu. Releasing Rin Nohara's hand, Yujin bowed to her. Bending down, he perfectly hid the corners of his mouth that were curving upwards. As expected, Rin Nohara is also special. In the original work, not long after graduating, she was able to perform an eye transplant surgery on Kakashi and Albedo in that harsh environment. Under immense pressure, the moment the eye transplant was successful, Kakashi was still able to perfectly unleash his power. There was no post-surgery stress reaction at all. She is also a genius. The entry on the panel showed it clearly. Medical Genius Blue. As a medical ninja, you will possess talent that is difficult for ordinary people to have. Effect. Greatly enhance the efficiency of learning medical ninjutsu. Don't look at the entry level being blue, but it's not a simple entry. It's very simple. The suffix of the entry is genius. In terms of entries, the value of genius. The golden genius entry obtained from Kakashi earlier has already shown its value to the fullest. Hearing Yujin's request and his sincere bow, Rin Nohara, with a flushed face, quickly helped Yujin up. No problem, Yujin-kun. I will teach you seriously. So Yujin-kun wanted to learn medical ninjutsu from her. What was she thinking? At this moment, the extremely shy Rin Nohara wanted to dig a hole in the ground and crawl into it. Is this a genius? Rin Nohara was somewhat disbelieving. It should be known that medical ninjutsu is very difficult. Every recorded ninjutsu is no lower than B rank. That is to say, the difficulty of learning medical ninjutsu compared to general ninjutsu starts at B rank. That's why it requires extremely high chakra control techniques. But the situation that met her eyes made Rin Nohara somewhat unbelievable. Converting the usual blue chakra to the green yang release activation technique was understandable. This was a must-learn. The Palm Sage technique, a technique she had painstakingly trained for many years to master, was actually learned by Yujin-kun in just one morning. She watched the fish, whose life had been pulled back by Yujin using the Palm Sage technique. She was too shocked to speak. And Albedo and Kakashi, who had gathered nearby after learning that Yujin was going to learn medical ninjutsu, also widened their eyes. Kakashi, I remember the textbook said that medical ninjutsu is notoriously difficult to learn, right? Your memory is fine. Albedo, the difficulty of learning medical ninjutsu has led to the scarcity of medical ninja today. Then what's going on? Why did Yujin learn such a difficult technique as the Palm Sage technique in one morning? You ask me, who do I ask? The two had a new understanding of Yujin's genius. Albedo didn't know what others were thinking, but about what Yujin said before about awakening the Sharingan. The statement about the leap in talent. He was a little skeptical. This guy Yujin said that after he awakened the Sharingan, his strength could also grow by leaps and bounds like his. Is that true? He was a little skeptical of himself. If he could really become so strong after awakening. There were more awakened Sharingan in the Uchiha clan. Why hadn't he seen them accomplish anything? Unlike Albedo, who was a little skeptical of himself, Kakashi's heart, which had become dead due to his father's death, and had somewhat eased during this time, began to beat. As someone who had grown up with the praise of being a genius since childhood, being surpassed by a ninja who was previously inferior to him due to the advantage of a bloodline limit was one thing. That was a disadvantage in bloodline, and he could still comfort himself like that at the time. Continue to slack off. But at this moment, seeing Yujin, after becoming so strong, still diligently cultivating taijutsu and medical ninjutsu, he felt a little ashamed. Kakashi could see the reason why Yujin was learning medical ninjutsu. Presumably, he wanted to understand his body better to improve efficiency. That, as soon as he gave a hint, the other party would come up with countermeasures by analogy. Facing this effort, Kakashi felt that he needed to get out of his father's death. He couldn't be so depressed anymore. Thinking this, he stared at Yujin with burning eyes. I will catch up with you in the coming time. At this moment, Yujin, who had turned off the palm sage technique in his hand and put away the fish, was a little confused by the suddenly motivated Kakashi. However, he was very clear about the reason for their praise just now. He wasn't some medical ninjutsu genius at all. That was the entry medical genius showing its power. That's why his palm sage technique learning was so smooth. As for the relevant theoretical knowledge, he had very little. You guys don't praise me anymore. I still need to continue learning relevant knowledge from Rin-chan. Mastering the technique only shows that I can master techniques quickly. This is the same as learning other ninjutsu. But to truly treat illnesses and save people, I'm still far from it. As soon as Uchiha Yujin finished speaking, a clear female voice echoed, "That's right, little brat. At least you have some insight and are not arrogant." The four people present, hearing this voice, looked in that direction. What met their eyes was Minato Namikaze walking slowly with the three Sannin. There was no need to think. That voice was none other than Tsunade, one of the three Sannin. "Sensei Minato, what are you doing here?" Minato Namikaze smiled reassuringly. "My Jiraiya-sensei and I met on the way, and when they heard I was coming to guide you, they came along." At this moment, enough nonsense. Tsunade impatiently took a step forward. "Boy, use your palm sage technique again, and let me see." Tsunade was very shocked that this Uchiha little brat had learned medical ninjutsu for one morning, and could already use the palm sage technique. She was far away just now and couldn't see clearly. Now, she wanted to see with her own eyes. What was going on with this guy? #35 Chapter 35 Tsunade's teachings. Hearing Tsunade's words, Uchiha Yujin did not rush to act. Instead, he looked eagerly at Minato Namikaze. Seeing this, Minato Namikaze covered his head helplessly and said, "Yujin, just listen to Lady Tsunade and use the palm sage technique once. Besides, I'm also very curious about Yujin learning medical ninjutsu." He was indeed very curious. From the conversation between Obito and Kakashi just now, this boy, Yujin, only recently learned medical ninjutsu from Rin, although he had some psychological preparation for Yujin's monster nature. But if he really learned it in just one morning, learning an A-rank medical ninjutsu, that would break the limits of understanding. He also wanted to see if it was really true. Hearing the instructions from his teacher, Uchiha Yujin raised his hands, and the moment the hand seals were formed, a green light representing healing appeared between his hands. No problem, that's definitely the palm sage technique. This time, Orochimaru truly looked at Uchiha Yujin with different eyes. He hadn't paid much attention to this boy before. No matter how strong his power was or how well he used the Flying Thunder God technique, he was just another Minato. But the ability to learn ninjutsu so quickly as he was currently demonstrating somewhat surprised him. His goal was to learn all the ninjutsu in the world. With this goal in mind, he had the idea of eternal life. After all, with a limited life, learning unlimited ninjutsu, human's short life was really stretched thin. HMPH tilde. You don't need to say more, we can see. Tsunade glared at Orochimaru impatiently. Turning her head, she looked at Yujin with a serious gaze. As a medical genius, even though she couldn't perform surgery at the moment due to her hemophobia, but her experience and eyesight were there. The green light of this palm sage technique, and the stable chakra frequency. A stable frequency meant that in the future, this boy only needed to adjust the output amount of chakra based on the severity of the illness, and he could heal most illnesses. However, she still couldn't quite believe it. She paced over to Uchiha Yujin. "What's wrong, Lady Tsunade?" Yujin saw the beautiful woman who had come closer, feeling a bit confused. Tsunade's curves, which were about to burst forth, made his gaze shift slightly. Tsunade extended her hand and said solemnly to Yujin, "Inject the palm sage technique chakra into my body. I want to see how good it is." "Tsunade, you don't have any injuries?" Jiraiya had been watching for a long time from the side and was a bit confused when he heard Tsunade's instructions. It just watched Tsunade's operation properly. Orochimaru patted Jiraiya's shoulder, stopping him from asking further questions. lest he be beaten badly by Tsunade again. Yujin was very obedient. He took Tsunade's delicate hand that she had extended and directly injected the palm sage technique chakra into her body. A buzzing sound rang out. After about 10 seconds, Tsunade frowned tightly. That's enough. Stop the palm sage technique. Obedient Yujin immediately stopped and flashed to the side, standing properly. Tsunade frowned tightly, staring at Yujin in silence. Jiraiya didn't dare to talk to Tsunade in this state, and Orochimaru didn't want to ask for trouble either. The other youngsters were all pretending to be well-behaved at the moment. Seeing this, Minato Namikaze, bracing himself, asked Tsunade, "How is it, Lady Tsunade?" "There's no problem with the palm sage technique at all. He's undoubtedly a genius." Tsunade replied quickly this time, "Except for the weak theoretical knowledge, the technique itself is flawless." After responding to Minato Namikaze, she turned to look at the well-behaved Yujin. She said irritably, "Little brat, don't you want to learn medical ninjutsu? Then come with me. Any later, even if you want to learn, you won't have enough time." "Yes, Lady Tsunade." Yujin bowed 90 degrees and responded loudly to Tsunade. Then, looking up, he thought about the latter half of Tsunade's sentence. He asked with some confusion, "No time to learn later?" Slap! At this moment, Jiraiya seemed to remember something and he slapped his head. He explained to the youngsters in Minato's team with a bit of embarrassment, "I almost forgot, the old man has already arranged for personnel deployment today to deal with the outbreak of war." Saying that, Jiraiya pointed to Orochimaru beside him and the bewildered Uchiha Yujin. "Orochimaru, this boy Uchiha Yujin and I are all going to different borders in 2 days. We came here today to say goodbye to Minato. We met on the way and heard you were training here, so we came to take a look." X4 the members of Minato's team all exclaimed in surprise. "Now you know, you stinky little brat." Tsunade turned around and left directly. "Hurry up and follow." "Okay, Tsunade-sensei." Yujin also seized the opportunity and called Tsunade teacher. He then jogged to catch up. The direction Tsunade and Yujin were heading towards was the Konoha hospital, and the Konoha hospital was located in a very good area. Not only was it in the core zone, it was also conveniently located, making it easy for patients to come and go. This also made it convenient for Yujin and Tsunade. The two arrived here shortly after. Tap 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 footsteps echoed in the hospital. Led by Tsunade, who knew the way well, they arrived at a quiet room. This room was very spacious, and the spacious room was filled with bookshelves. "Where is this?" Yujin, who followed Tsunade into the room, looked at the surrounding bookshelves with confusion. Tsunade didn't answer immediately. She went to a bookshelf and pulled out a book from it. She looked at the cover, confirmed she hadn't taken the wrong book, and then tossed it towards Yujin. Whoosh! Thud! Yujin caught the book Tsunade threw. Before he could react, Tsunade's voice came over. "In terms of the technique, you are indeed impeccable. Medical knowledge isn't just about the technique." Saying that, Tsunade pointed to the surrounding bookshelves and continued proudly, "If you learn all this knowledge, then you can truly say you have achieved something in medical ninjutsu. These 2 days are a bit rushed, so just finish reading this book for now. In 2 days, when you go on your mission, I will give you a reward based on your progress." After saying that, she didn't wait for Yujin to react and walked out of the room. Tsunade's intention was simple. She wanted to see if this Uchiha Yumo was a true medical genius. If he was, then he would devour that book within 2 days. If he couldn't, it would only mean that the little brat was merely a genius of technique and not worth her continued effort. A somewhat bewildered Uchiha Yujin watched Tsunade leave. Coming back to his senses, he opened the book and began to read. So that's it. The content of the book wasn't difficult, it was all introductory. He understood Tsunade's intention. It should be a test. He didn't care much about this. For him now, what was important was the evaluation and the abilities obtained from his contact with Tsunade. The abilities obtained from his contact with Tsunade. #36 Chapter 36 Bloodline of the Senju clan. At the moment he came into contact with Tsunade earlier, Yujin directly issued an order to the system. Extract the bloodline limit term of Senju of the forest. The system did not fail him. He also obtained the power of the Senju bloodline. Senju of the forest blue, the powerful bloodline power held by the Senju of the forest, proof of bearing the power of the divine tree. Effect, chakra vitality, greatly enhanced. But it's enough, Yujin muttered to himself, gazing at the blue term on the panel. However, he quickly accepted this result. It's very normal for Tsunade's Senju of the forest bloodline term to be blue level. In the original work, her bloodline limit only had the effect of increasing chakra capacity. There was no wood release, and self-healing of injuries relied on medical ninjutsu. However, I am different. With the system, As long as my combat value meets the requirements, I can upgrade this bloodline term. And how important the Senju of the forest bloodline is to the Uchiha Sharingan. I know it very well. Having thought that, Yujin's mind stirred. System install the term. As the term was installed, a warm feeling emerged from Yujin's body. Yujin was somewhat incredulous. He felt a surging vitality slowly emerging from within his body. The information on the panel also reflected this. A new term, a term he hadn't extracted from anyone, appeared out of thin air on the system panel. Yam release green, chakra attribute, proof of vitality. Effect, through specific techniques, it can heal oneself or other living beings. Yai release? This should be what appeared after secretly transferring the Senju bloodline term. However, when Yujin saw the complex chakra attribute terms on his panel, he got a bit of a headache. If only the system could combine these attribute terms. After all, no matter how chakra attributes change, it's still chakra. Furthermore, the Otsutsuki clan doesn't have any attribute divisions. As if sensing Yujin's thought, the system in Yujin's sea of consciousness trembled slightly. A stream of information was transmitted into Yujin's mind. Terms can be synthesized, but it requires combat value, and the higher the matching degree of the term, the less combat value is needed. Conversely, the lower the matching degree, the higher the cost. Uchiha Yujin was instantly invigorated. There's nothing to think about. He originally wanted to simplify the chakra attribute terms. Besides, all the extraordinary things in this world are based on chakra, including the Otsutsuki, all their abilities, immortality, simulating myriad phenomena, controlling space-time, creating worlds, establishing the netherworld, manipulating life and death, creating things out of thin air, traversing the star sea, and so on. All rely on chakra. System, how much combat value is needed to synthesize chakra release attributes? Hearing the host's question, the system sent out a stream of information, feeding back Yujin's query. Because they all originate from chakra variations, the matching degree is very high, only requiring 100 combat value. Coincidentally, he had 170 combat value. His mind stirred. The chakra in his body began to boil. After the time it takes to steep a cup of tea, Yujin's chakra began to calm down. His attention had already turned to the panel. Host, Uchiha Yujin gender, male age, 13 strength, cage terms, child of space-time gold, genius gold, fate of illusion gold. Uchiha purple, steel training purple, Manjikayo Sharingan purple. Senju of the forest blue, Uchiha style blue, natural energy affinity blue, flying thunder god technique blue, vampiric immortality blue, medical genius blue, chakra seed green. Combat value 70. Yujin found that the released chakra terms had disappeared. A new green term appeared, chakra seed green. This is your own source of chakra. Effect, simulates yin-yang in 5 elements and can also perform fusion changes. Current change lava release. Simulate yin-yang and 5 elements. Fusion changes. As if thinking of something, Yujin raised his left hand and condensed chakra. Buzz, blue chakra appeared in his hand. It's a good thing I often saw Kakashi's lightning release chakra activation. The trajectory is like this as Yujin recalled seeing Kakashi's lightning release usage with his Sharingan. The chakra in his body also started to move accordingly. Crackle! Threads of lightning appeared in his hand. I thought that, as expected, these 100 points weren't wasted. Lava release can still be used, and the system directly produced lightning attribute chakra. Earth and water go without saying. The lava release he originally extracted was a fusion of these two. Furthermore, he installed the Senju bloodline lineage term himself, and the standard chakra attributes of the Senju are earth and water. Moreover, Yujin could feel surges of surging vitality continuously converging towards his eye sockets. A cool sensation wrapped around his eye sockets, making him feel as if his eyes had been freed from a slight restraint. However, he knew about the bloodline term through Uchiha Purple. That requires time to verify. It won't take effect immediately. The fact that his body has a sensation now is a good sign. The important thing now is to first learn the knowledge of medical ninjutsu. Yujin, who randomly cut off his thoughts, seriously began to study the large tome Tsunade had given him. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was the day Yujin was to go on a mission. Early that morning, as soon as the sky brightened, Yujin got up and washed. Very early, he set off on the road to Konoha Hospital. The afternoon was the time for the mission. He had already arranged with Tsunade that she would verify his progress early this morning. Just how his progress was. Before long, Uchiha Yujin arrived at that room, knowing the way well. He found that Tsunade was already there in the room, sitting at the desk waiting for him. seeing that Yujin had arrived early and was not late. Tsunade nodded with satisfaction. Yujin, being on time is very good. Come over. I'll verify your learning progress. Yes, Tsunade-sensei. The verification process went smoothly, and Tsunade was also very satisfied. Good, the theoretical aspect is also impeccable. Now let me see how your practical ability is. Having said that, Tsunade stood up. Follow me, boy. Hearing this, Yujin obediently followed. They arrived at a room that looked like a laboratory. Tsunade came to a countertop. She took out a fish from the sink beside her. Whoosh, Tsunade used a scalpel to cut the fish. Come over, boy. Use palm sage technique to heal this fish. She wanted to see if Yujin had improved in the use of palm sage technique after studying. Yujin, who acted according to orders, didn't think much. He came before the injured fish. Forming the hand seals, the green healing chakra of the palm sage technique appeared in his hand. Tsunade was a little puzzled. When Yujin displayed the palm sage technique, the necklace on her neck trembled slightly. She thought it was an illusion, but the moment Yujin's hand touched the fish and he increased his chakra output, Tsunade noticed something different. Not just the necklace, even her chakra started reacting to it. Tsunade seemed to have thought of something unimaginable. Slap! She grabbed Yujin's arm. #37 Chapter 37, heading to the Fire Country coastline hut. Tsunade-sensei, Uchiha Yujin, whose arm was grabbed, turned his head in surprise, and the scene that met his eyes made him close his mouth. He saw Tsunade's eyes widen, her pupils trembling slightly. Her lips trembled. What's going on with this chakra of yours? I remember. You're an Uchiha, aren't you? Tsunade felt like her worldview had been completely shattered. She found a familiar fluctuation on an Uchiha, the unique chakra fluctuation of the Senju of the forests. She would absolutely not mistake this. The reaction of the necklace, her grandfather's relic, around her neck wouldn't be wrong either. But it was precisely this point that made her feel incredibly unbelievable. Hearing Tsunade's confusion, Yujin finally reacted. This was caused by the bloodline trait on his body. However, he couldn't easily explain this issue. Yujin's eyes darkened. Tsunade-sensei, my chakra is very normal. There's nothing abnormal about using it. Hearing Yujin's response, Tsunade came back to her senses. She asked urgently, are both of your parents Uchiha? The Uchiha clan has a characteristic. They don't adhere to the pure blood concept. If a child born to an Uchiha who married outside the clan awakens the Sharingan, they will directly be granted the Uchiha surname for the entire family. Conversely, it's easier to understand. According to the customs of this land, when a woman marries, she takes her husband's surname. She wanted to know which side this boy's parents were from. Which side had the possibility of being Senju of the forest? Hearing Tsunade's question, Yujin was also baffled. My parents died early. I don't remember that point very clearly. When those words suddenly fell, seeing Tsunade's expression change, Yujin continued, asking knowingly, also, Tsunade-sensei, why are you asking this? Tsunade also got a bit of a headache after hearing this counter question. That's right. She had investigated this little brat's growth history over the past few days. Parents died early, enrolled in the ninja academy, then graduated and entered a regular team. After the rest of the team members died, he followed Kakashi and joined Minato's team. And then, his strength grew by leaps and bounds. The speed at which he mastered jutsu was unique. His talent in combat was also terrifying. He could even contend with Akasuna no Sasori, the grandson of that detestable sand-hidden old woman. But none of this could hide the fact that he was still a low-level ninja half a year ago. An Uchiha, after awakening the Sharingan, would absolutely not have such an astonishing growth curve. And the remarkable chakra on his body. This is not the amount an Uchiha should have. This is the amount that only the Senju and Vortex can possess. However, she couldn't ask so directly. She would investigate these questions slowly when this boy went to the battlefield. Clearing her thoughts, Tsunade gently exhaled a turbid breath. It's nothing. I was just thinking about some things, don't mind it. Continue treating the fish. Upon hearing this, Yujin responded calmly, yes. Tsunade-sensei. He also didn't want to cause more trouble at this time. He immediately lowered his head and began treating the fish. However, the current Tsunade no longer cared about the test result. After hastily telling Yujin that he passed, she took out a pile of books, put them into a space scroll, and handed them to him. After telling him to perform the mission well, she quickly left the Konoha hospital. Uchiha Yujin watched Tsunade's hurrying figure leave. He knew she had misunderstood something. He shook his head with a slight smile. Asking about my parents? She must be trying to find out if there's any Senju component in my bloodline. However, mine is the system's divine power. If you can find anything from that, it would be a ghost. Yujin, after sighing, didn't stay idle. He packed the books and scrolls. He started walking toward the ninja tool shop. He began preparing supplies for the mission. Military rations, pills, kunai, shuriken, special steel wire, explosive tags. Good, everything is in order. After Uchiha Yujin confirmed that all the supplies were foolproof in the room, he immediately got up and strode out of the house. Bang! After closing the door, he walked toward the security force. He had received notification for this mission the day before when he was at the Konoha hospital. This time, he was to follow the main Uchiha force, heading to the Land of Fire's coastline, to guard against the rest of Hidden Mist Village. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Yujin immediately sensed that something was wrong. Konoha Village, or rather, the customs of the ninja world. Any group emphasizes identity politics. In Konoha Village, his political identity is first and foremost Minato Namikaze's disciple. Secondly, he belongs to the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan acknowledges this. After all, there's the precedent of Uchiha Kagami. More importantly, this is the ninja village era, not the warring states period. Ninjas now have a true liege. Kage is the ninja's liege. The liege is always greater than the clan. This is a universal truth. It is so for court nobles, so for samurai, and even more so for lowly ninjas. So here comes the strange part. Why, in this mission, did he, a direct descendant of the Hokage lineage, leave Minato's team and directly join the Uchiha group action? One must know that for a Jonin class leading a team to be disbanded, unless it's broken up in battle, the remaining condition must be that all members of the entire team are promoted to Chunin. So who was behind this? He was certain someone was trying to stir up trouble. Yujin didn't care about this. With the Mangekyo upon him, empowered by invincible Sharingan techniques, no matter what conspiracy or tricks he faced later, he would meet soldiers with generals and water with earth. While thinking, Yujin arrived at the security force. In the security force plaza, most of the Uchiha had already gathered. Yujin-kun, come here. Fugaku on the high platform saw Yujin and called him over. Yes, Lord Fugaku. Yujin gladly accepted the order. Among the Uchiha, you don't play the humble game. He stood properly beside Fugaku. The Uchiha below who were not aligned with Fugaku didn't jump out to cause any trouble either. As one of the top clans in the ninja world for 1,000 years, the Uchiha, might lack political acumen, but they were not lacking in combat intelligence at all. Internal disagreements and such had to give way to war now. Furthermore, they didn't dislike this Uchiha Yujin in front of them. The Uchiha clan, with their deep obsession with the position of Hokage, when dealing with an Uchiha who had hope of becoming Hokage, who would dislike him? Subsequently, after Fugaku gave a speech that was extremely boring in Yujin's eyes, the main Uchiha force set off, heading toward the Land of Fire coastline. In a gloomy cave, Zetsu slowly emerged from the ground. That boy should have set off by now, right? Uchiha Madara asked Zetsu with interest. Calculating the time, it's about right. #38 Chapter 38 Taijutsu Training Good. When the time comes, arrange for the hidden mist to kill this boy. Uchiha Madara smiled coldly. His killing intent towards Uchiha Yujin was set. Madara, honestly, I think this boy Yujin's talent is much stronger than Obito's. Why must he be killed? It's a simple principle. With Obito, this guy whose aptitude isn't weak, there's no need for this boy Yujin to exist. After all, idiots are always easier to control than smart people. This was Madara's choice. He also didn't expect that this generation of Uchiha would produce two exceptional talents. One had already begun to flourish. One was still dormant. The one who was flourishing didn't look like an idiot. The dormant one looked like an idiot. From the perspective of control, the choice was already obvious. Then when does Madara plan to make a move? Hearing this, Uchiha Madara's mouth curved into a cruel arc. Doesn't that guy Danzo want to cause trouble? Just wait and make a move with him. I'm really looking forward to it. When he is betrayed by the village higher-ups will a new eye appear. Time flew by. It had been more than half a year since arriving at the Land of Fire coastline. In the past 6 months, although the Hidden Mist occasionally harassed the border, they did not launch a large-scale invasion, as if waiting for some opportunity. Regarding this, Uchiha Yujin ignored it completely. He was in a valley not far from the sea, performing his daily, unwavering taijutsu training. Boom boom boom! Bursts of roaring sounds echoed throughout the valley. On the distant cliff, 3 small figures stared intently at the source of the sound. Isn't that too exaggerated? Is brother Yujin really doing taijutsu? A boy wearing overalls, a sun headband, and sunglasses watched the commotion Yujin was making with alarm. Even though he saw it every day during this period, he still couldn't understand. why a person could be so strong. That's right. My guy, can taijutsu really accomplish something like that? Hearing this, a handsome boy with long brown hair and a blue hat also quickly nodded in agreement, but Might Guy seemed not to have heard his two companions. His eyes were fixed on the low-lying area of the valley. He only saw a shirtless boy raising his fist, smashing it toward the mountain wall in front. Each strike caused large chunks of rock to break off the mountain. This not only caused roaring sounds in the valley, but also made them, located on the cliff, feel the vibrations. Unbelievable! Might Guy truly felt it was unbelievable. That figure was their leading jonin during this time, Uchiha Yujin. He had also interacted with him recently. He had also heard Kakashi's evaluation, a genius among geniuses. But such a genius was actually training taijutsu so diligently. It was something he couldn't have imagined. Might Guy tilde. The suddenly raised tone made Might Guy snap back to his senses. Tilde, what's wrong, Abisu Genma? TCH Shiranui Genma clicked his tongue in annoyance and repeated the question from before. Hearing this, Might Guy said with difficulty in a hoarse voice, I don't know if my taijutsu can reach that level, but you all saw Brother Yujin's taijutsu. He accomplished something like that without using chakra. Yeah, we all saw it. Shiranui Genma sighed, feeling like he had asked a pointless question. At this moment, Abisu's voice came, Brother Yujin, the training is finished. Let's go down. Okay? X2 in the valley. Uchiha Yujin put away his stance, slowly exhaled a puff of white air. The white air flew forward like a sharp sword. Then he began to do stretches. As he did them, he felt a bit emotional. Yujin felt that he was very lucky. He who was designed by who knows who was called upon to be a temporary leading jonin as soon as he arrived at the Land of Fire coastline by an order. It was said that a special jonin was also a jonin and should take on more responsibility. The purpose, he could guess, to separate him from most of the Uchiha, but that person didn't expect that the hidden mist was not in a hurry to attack, as if waiting for something, and remain inactive for half a year. And then, luckily, the people he led were people he was familiar with. Might Guy Shiranui Genma Abisu. He just happened to be about to undergo taijutsu training at that time, to digest the term steel training. The rest was simple. As the leading jonin, he directly asked Might Guy about the training method for the strong fist. Might Guy didn't hide anything. Someone acknowledging taijutsu was equivalent to acknowledging him and his father. He directly imparted all the knowledge he wanted. Even the 8 Gates release was passed on to him without any reservation. The subsequent situation made Yujin feel like heaven was helping him. Half a year of free time for training allowed his taijutsu to achieve progress that made one's scalp tingle. After all, steel training is a bit overpowered. Consistent training yields results. I didn't expect it to be like this. He really didn't expect it. This term meant that his physique would continue to strengthen until his body reached its maximum capacity for endurance. He was special. He possessed both the Uchiha and Senju bloodline limits. This caused a slight change in his body. The increase in his limit and the surge in chakra were needless to say. His body's recovery ability was also incredibly strong. Now he dared to compare his chakra to Naruto's and Shippuden. It was no weaker. It had definitely surpassed the amount of 100 units. How much exactly, he didn't know. Anyway, it should be like Naruto, where he would no longer care about chakra usage. Even if he wasn't as good as Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, who could fight for days and nights. He was confident that fighting intensely for a day and a night would be easy. And speaking of recovery ability, he had to mention the taijutsu training during this period. What surprised him the most was his recovery ability. No matter how brutal his training was, after eating and sleeping, he would be fully recovered the next day. Just like that, after training for half a year, he was confident that he could open up to the 6th gate of the 8 Gates release. Half a year was equivalent to several years of Lee's training. The system for extracting terms truly made him feel incredibly powerful. At this moment, while lost in thought and emotion, he also saw his 3 companions rushing down. He immediately stopped his stretching movements. He waved happily and greeted them. Might Guy, Abisu, Genma, are you also coming to train taijutsu? Brother Yujin, no Shiranui Genma shook his head and said in a deep voice, intelligence came from the camp. It seems there are ninja troops who have infiltrated our side, and we are asked to investigate. Hearing this, Uchiha Yujin's eyes narrowed slightly. In the Hokage, when mentioning the 8 Gates release, one cannot ignore Might Guy and his father. And thinking of Might Guy's father, Mado Dai, this eternal genin, would make one think of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and the process of evolving into Lucky Trio. And looking at his 3 companions in front of him, could it be this time? #39 Chapter 39, Flying Thunder God Talisman, thinking that it might be the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Uchiha Yujin didn't dare to be careless. He knew very well that if it were just himself, facing these 7 people wouldn't be a big deal. The trouble was, the 3 teammates he was leading, they were really too weak. Even if he was strong alone, it was impossible to protect the 3 while fighting the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Having cleared his thoughts, Uchiha Yujin didn't waste any words. He said to the 3, "The camp wants us to patrol." "No problem. Wait for me to get something out, then we'll go." He immediately took out a scroll from the ninja tool pouch at his waist. He casually threw it out with a bang. A stack of talismans appeared on the ground. "Brother Yujin, are these explosion tags?" Shiranui Genma was a little confused. Logically, what was he preparing? Explosion tags? And Uchiha Yujin hadn't had time to reply. Ebisu, who had good theoretical knowledge, pushed up his glasses and shook his head, saying, "They are not explosion tags. The runes on explosion tags are not like this." "Alright, stop guessing randomly. These are my Flying Thunder God technique talismans. Take them carefully." Uchiha Yujin rolled his eyes at the 2 of them, took out 3 talismans, and handed them to the 3 one by one. He had spent this time with these 3. He knew their backgrounds. Shiranui Genma had always been likable in appearance and liked to seek attention since he was a child. Ebisu was just like in the original work, a reserved guy. No matter what was being discussed, he had to show off his knowledge. Only my guy was a bit different. At this stage, he was cheerful, yes, but he hadn't reached the level of cheerfulness he would have in the future. The reason was simple. He was still a little self-conscious because his father was a perpetual genin. However, all 3 had good natures. After spending some time together, he didn't want anything to happen to them, so he handed them the Flying Thunder God technique talismans he had made himself. Flying Thunder God technique talisman. What does this do? My guy took the talisman, a little confused. He could also use ninjutsu, but due to his father's guidance and resource limitations, he could only primarily train in taijutsu at the moment. "You've been with me for half a year. You should know the effect of the Flying Thunder God technique, right?" "Yes." X3 This talisman was developed by me, inspired by the explosion tag. After wearing it, no matter what dangerous situation you face, as soon as something is wrong, I can take you to retreat quickly. Uchiha Yujin said this to the 3 with a serious expression. Flying Thunder God technique. He had also been researching it during this time. He had also researched the ninja love sword type of item at Minato Namikaze could sense as long as chakra was outputted, allowing him to appear instantly. However, due to funding reasons, he didn't really want to do that. He got inspiration from the explosion tag. The explosion tag was a very powerful ninja tool. It was a ninja tool that would explode as long as you used a little bit of chakra as a fuse and threw it out. So the question is, since the explosion tag didn't consume much chakra, where did the energy for the explosion come from? It was the person who made the ninja tool who stored chakra in the talisman through runes. When Uchiha Yujin learned this, a flash of inspiration appeared in his mind. He didn't need to know what the explosion runes were about. He just needed to know how the chakra storing runes worked. Knowing this, he could use the Flying Thunder God technique as the core to create his own Flying Thunder God technique talismans. And when he had this idea, the genius gold ability extracted from Kakashi once again proved its value. A genius is a genius, just like how smoothly Kakashi developed the Chidori series. The development of this talisman, he also completed it smoothly. The effect was very simple, like the ninja love sword, as long as the holder inputted chakra to alert him. After he sensed it, he could also instantaneously move over quickly. There was another more important function. That was as long as the holder of the talisman was within his line of sight. When the holder was in mortal danger, he could activate the chakra stored within the talisman, let that chakra wrap around the holder, and then he could activate the Flying Thunder God technique. Taking the person touched by his chakra, they could instantly move together. At this moment, hearing Uchiha Yujin's instructions, the 3 also very solemnly put away the talismans. What the effect of the Flying Thunder God technique was, they had experienced it many times during this period. Brother Yujin said that as long as they had this talisman, he could take them to retreat from any dangerous situation. That was absolutely true. Seeing that all 3 had accepted the talismans, Uchiha Yujin didn't say anything else. He immediately made a hand sign, and they rushed toward the place where the intelligence showed there were ninja infiltrating. The bright sun hung in the sky. The 4 of them, Uchiha Yujin and the others, ran through a quiet forest. "Brother Yujin, something is wrong." Shiranui Genma narrowed his eyes slightly and gave a warning to the leading Uchiha Yujin. "Indeed, this forest is too quiet." Uchiha Yujin responded seriously to Shiranui Genma, then formed a hand seal, his chakra slightly condensing. Immediately afterwards, Yujin closed his eyes as if sensing something. That's right! Since he already possessed the Senju of the forest bloodline limit, he had also developed corresponding sensing ability during this time. This showed the heaven-defying aspect of the ability. The genius gold ability, it seemed, as long as it was on the panel for a day. When he wanted to learn or develop something, Kakashi's creativity would appear out of thin air. This greatly shocked Uchiha Yujin. He couldn't help but be shocked. Kakashi himself couldn't make the inspiration of genius appear all the time, but the ability extraction system could. As long as the ability was on the panel, the effect of the ability could be activated continuously. Therefore, this sensing ability based on the bloodline limit was successfully overcome by him. Uchiha Yujin, who was sensing with his eyes closed, seemed to have really discovered something. He quickly made a hand sign. When they saw that hand sign, Might Guy and the other two quickly stopped. Did brother Yujin discover something? Cold sweat appeared on Might Guy's face. Their brother Yujin had a good sensing ability. Everyone knew that. At this moment, making this hand sign to stop advancing, he must have discovered something. The reality was more serious than he thought. Uchiha Yujin turned around with a serious expression, his scarlet eyes looking at the three. You three, retreat toward the camp. I will hold off the enemy for a moment. After saying that, he formed a hand seal. Bang! In the swirling smoke, another Uchiha Yujin walked out. #40 Chapter 40 7 Ninja Swordsmen. My shadow clone will stay with you as insurance. The three people who heard Yujin's words became extremely serious. Is it a very powerful enemy? Shiranui Genma asked in a deep voice. That's right, a very powerful enemy. Uchiha Yujin solemnly responded to his question. The situation was even more severe than he had imagined. His sensing range was also not small. Several kilometers ahead, 10 or so large chakra signatures. He had sensed them. Among these 7 chakra signatures, there was a hint of water vapor. Among these 7 chakra signatures, one of them was also very large. Compared to humans, that chakra was simply another species, possessing this large chakra with a hint of water vapor. It must be the wielder of same hata, Suikazen Fuguki. But what he couldn't figure out was, in the original work, the ambush on Might Guy, Abisu, and Shiranui Genma, shouldn't it have only been the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist? Why were there so many more chakra signatures? Seeing the situation that didn't match the original plot, how could Uchiha Yujin dare to be careless? He immediately told them to retreat. As for himself, to be honest, as long as there was no burden, with his Sharingan fully activated, he was confident in completely annihilating the enemy. However, the 3 of Might Guy would likely be dead, considering that they had gotten along quite well during this time. Uchiha Yujin issued the order to retreat. Hearing his big brother Yujin personally admit that the enemy was very strong, the 3 immediately turned around. As qualified ninja, the 3 of them wouldn't say anything sentimental at such a critical moment. The leading Jonin told them to retreat. They retreated. Might Guy, who had turned around, glanced at Yujin one last time with the corner of his eye. He whispered in a deep voice, Brother Yujin, you must come back alive. Hearing this, Uchiha Yujin grinned and responded to Might Guy, don't worry, I won't die. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As the shadow clone and the 3 left, Uchiha Yujin's eyes also trembled slightly. Buzz, in an instant, the scarlet and enchanting Sharingan appeared in Yujin's eye sockets. He stared straight ahead, slowly drawing his indestructible ninja sword. This stance, since it doesn't match the original work, the extra variables must be here for me. This was his prediction for this situation. Changes always have reasons. He couldn't think of any reason for the change in ambush personnel other than himself. You know, in the original work, even when ambushing the 3 ninja who were still in the rookie stage, Might Guy, they were all attacked by the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist together. There was no mention of hidden power. So, let me see, who is so interested in me? Yujin grinned, and a dark killing intent surged around him. Boom! The ground beneath his feet shattered instantly. Uchiha Yujin's figure, like a sharp arrow, rushed forward. As the leader of this mission, White Setsu fiercely suppressed his somewhat unreliable nature. He was a special White Setsu, unlike those mass-produced ones. Madara giving him this mission instead of that dark guy represented his trust in him. So this time, no matter what, he had to do it perfectly. Completely surpass the dark guy. Before this mission is completed, I must resist the thought of asking them what it feels like to need to relieve oneself. Yes, that's right. Lord Setsu, what's right? Suikazen Fuguki looked at the muttering Zetsu with some confusion. Nothing, I was thinking I didn't expect Konoha to actually betray their comrades, that Danzo is really such a person. White Setsu realized he had misspoken and quickly laughed it off. Hearing his leader speak, Suikaze Fuguki was non-committal. Everyone in the ninja world knew what the ninja world's darkness was like. This time, they actually betrayed their own ninja and colluded with their Lord Water Shadow, letting them ambush that Uchiha Yujin together. To be honest, these things were nothing to the hidden mist village of the Bloody Mist. Betraying comrades was completely normal. The only thing he couldn't figure out was, why did Lord Water Shadow, even though they had sent out their 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, still arrange for a so-called Lord Zetsu to come along? This guy didn't seem very smart. However, even though he was silently complaining in his heart, Suikaze Fuguki still had to respond to his leader's words. Lord Zetsu, there are no wrong nicknames in the ninja world. Since Danzo Shimura has the nickname Ninja World's Darkness, it means what? Before Suikaze Fuguki could finish speaking, Zetsu asked along with his words, trying to cover up his previous slip-up. It means that in the ninja world, if you find a conspiracy you don't understand, just blame it on him, and you'll be absolutely right. Hearing Suikaze Fuguki's words, White Zetsu widened his eyes. He shouted in disbelief, so that's it. White Zetsu truly found it unbelievable. So Danzo had this kind of use. When he went back, he would suggest it to Madara. In the future, whenever a conspiracy unfolded, they could just pin it on Danzo Shimura, that useful tool. Alright, Lord Zetsu, we're almost at the ambush location. Let's not discuss this topic anymore. It wouldn't be good if Danzo's subordinates over there heard us. Okay, Zetsu responded and then frowned. As a biological weapon with a certain degree of sensing ability, he detected a change ahead. He immediately raised his voice and shouted to the surrounding ninja, "Everyone, pay attention. A powerful chakra is heading towards us." Hearing White Zetsu's reminder, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist immediately started discussing amongst themselves. Is it the mission target? Who cares who it is? They dare to rush towards us. No matter how powerful the enemy, they will be killed by me, Rengakura Sukachi. Who cares who it is? This area is certainly Konoha ninja. I, Mangetsu, will cut him down to avenge the shame of Senior Juzo. Although they were noisy and talking over each other, their ninja skills were good. Since someone was rushing toward them, they couldn't be blamed for setting traps here and waiting at their leisure. They didn't have to wait long. Amidst the rumbling sounds, a giant fire release that covered the sky and earth, with the momentum of overturning mountains and seas, attacked them. What is this? Not good. It's great fire annihilation. Everyone, quickly defend. White Zetsu recognized the ninjutsu and quickly reminded everyone present. He was all too familiar with this ninjutsu. His Madara loved to use it. He would occasionally practice it to stay sharp. After all, ninja skills, like the skills of mortals, deteriorate with disuse. He could tell that this fire release was close to Madara's scale. It was not to be underestimated. Hey, are you kidding me? How can we defend against this kind of fire release? We need at least dozens of ninja using water wall, right? Are you an idiot? We are elites. 10 or so is enough. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and White Zetsu, and a few silent Danzo subordinates on the side, were not fools either. Everyone knew how to use the common water wall technique. They all started to activate their joint ninjutsu. Water release, water wall exclamation. Over a dozen water walls merged into one, forming a radiant torrent. It instantly collided with the scorching sea of great fire. Boom! The collision of water and fire echoed through the heavens and earth. In the steaming forest, a figure rushed out. That figure stood with his sword across on a large tree, looking down at the people below with a disdainful expression. #41 Chapter 41 Pupil Technique. Ikemokurin activation. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and a bunch of rats, Uchiha Yujin's sharing narrowed slightly. What? And the mission that came into view surprised Yujin a little. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, needless to say, he already had a plan in mind. The ninja dressed in Anu attire, the feeling of their chakra had no water vapor at all. He also had some guesses in his mind. This large force, appearing directly and accurately in his defenses zone. Plus, he had noticed something was wrong ever since he was forced to separate from Minato's team. Also, becoming the leader of Might Guy's squad and separating from the main Uchiha force. It's you, isn't it, Danzo? These situations were all acceptable within his own mind. But the green-haired figure wearing a spiral mask was the reason for his surprise. That was White Zetsu. There was no doubt about that. Seeing this situation, Uchiha Yujin's heart sank. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, White Zetsu, Root. When these elements came together, how could he not understand himself? He had already been noticed by Uchiha Madara. Dumbass, White Zetsu must have spied on him. After returning from this mission, he must learn Sage Mode. Only by combining Sage Mode with his sensing ability could he root out those White Zetsu. Just as Yujin's thoughts were churning in his mind, Hozuki Mangetsu raised the executioner's blade in his hand, opened his mouth full of serrated teeth, and mocked in a strange tone, "Tisk, as expected of a ninja with a title, Flying Thunder God Yujin. Seeing all of us, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, you actually dare to space out." Hozuki Mangetsu was a little annoyed by Uchiha Yujin's attitude. In his opinion, the configuration of his team was more than enough to destroy a small country, but this arrogant Uchiha, he actually dared to space out during a confrontation. This is unbearable. Thinking this, Mangetsu lightly turned the sword hilt, and his ankle moved. Rip! Instantly, Mangetsu appeared beside Uchiha Yujin. He raised the executioner's blade high in his hand and let out a strange cry from his mouth. Great water arm slash. After this strange cry, one could only see that Hozuki Mangetsu's wrist, which was holding the great sword, suddenly became huge. Whoosh! The giant arm, holding the executioner's blade, slashed towards Yujin with terrifying killing intent. A slash enhanced by the great water arm technique. Uchiha Yujin recognized this technique, and coupled with the fact that this boy in front of him looked too similar to Suijitsu from the manga, he recognized the new owner of the executioner's blade on the spot. Hozuki Mangetsu! However, regarding this attack that used the hydration technique to greatly increase muscle mass in the arm, thereby enhancing the force of the slash, Uchiha Yujin scoffed, "An attack of this level, I don't need to dodge at all." The Tomo and his Sharingan spun, using his ocular power as a catalyst. Yujin activated his guardian deity Susanoo. A fiery red, materialized ribcage skeleton instantly appeared. Clang! A loud noise made Hozuki Mangetsu open his eyes in disbelief. What is this? It actually blocked my great water arm? But that wasn't the reason for his shock. He knew that Uchiha Yujin was not someone who could be easily defeated. What shocked him was this materialized chakra entity, despite being a vibrant fiery red color. Why did it feel so cold and powerful in his perception? The bone-chilling coldness made his skin feel a stinging pain. This thing is not simple. Before he could think further, Uchiha Yujin responded to his confusion. This is the Uchiha's god's power, but there's no need to explain anything more to the dead. Saying that, Uchiha Yujin's eyes trembled slightly. The Tama spun, and his ocular power began to boil in his eye sockets. Intricate patterns appeared in Yujin's eyes. For this battle, he wanted a quick victory. The appearance of that special white zetsu made him feel a hint of unease. Being noticed by the old guy Uchiha Madara was a rather unpleasant thing for him. He could tell with his toes that he wasn't a simpleton. Uchiha Madara must have felt that he was difficult to control, which is why he arranged the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist plus a special white zetsu to deal with him. Then he would collude with Danzo to ensure complete success. This stance was clearly aimed at killing him. Since they were coming to kill him, what was the point of playing around? Of course, he had to take advantage of their lack of information about him. Use his ocular technique for a first strike kill. Clearing his thoughts, the pattern in Uchiha Yujin's left eye trembled slightly. Ocular technique Ikumo-Kirin activated. An inexplicable power began to envelop everything in his field of vision. Immediately after, a chilling sensation that felt like death deeply enveloped the hearts of everyone present. Kiritsuchi Rega gripped the lightning blade Kiba and said somewhat uneasily, "I feel like something is coming. It's okay, there are so many of us here. We'll win!" The steady Jinin Ikebino didn't take it seriously, despite the chill. With so many elites present, he couldn't think of any reason to lose. Hey, don't be too careless everyone. This feeling is really super bad. As the most adept at surviving by any means necessary, Suikaze and Fuguki immediately felt something was wrong. The feeling of a ninja who had emerged from countless battles was generally not wrong. Upon the reminders of their 3 companions, the remaining 3 taciturn ninja sword users' expressions tightened. As partners, they still trusted their companions' feelings. This is troublesome. That power is ocular power, right? White Zetsu's face beneath the mask was somewhat heavy. As a special white Zetsu who had followed Uchiha Madara for many years, he was not unfamiliar with this kind of powerful sharing in ocular power. However, this ocular power reminded him of the main Jikayo. When this thought came to mind, he stared intently at Uchiha Yujin with eyes that seemed to have seen a monster. Is this still a Sharingan? Unlike his companions, Hozuki Mangetsu, who was close at hand, saw these extraordinary eyes. The chilling ocular power immediately made him break out in a cold sweat on the spot. When these eyes appeared, he seemed to have a hallucination of his own head being separated from his body. Before he could figure it out, boom, tiny sparks of ninja body technique ignited on Uchiha Yujin's body. He looked at Hozuki Mangetsu with eyes that saw the dead. Of course it's a Sharingan, and it's eyes that will see your future deaths. Bang! After a loud noise, Hozuki Mangetsu was sent flying. At the same time, Uchiha Yujin leaped up. Leaping high into the air, he showed a cruel smile to everyone below. Mats, your tragic deaths have already been reflected in my eyes. Now, prepare to die. Yujin's voice suddenly fell. The inexplicable power that had changed due to his ocular power earlier began to flow. #42 Chapter 42 The power to achieve what you want. Incomprehensible. This was White Zetsu's current thoughts. As a biological weapon, his personality was actually very optimistic. But that optimism was utterly shattered. He simply couldn't imagine everything that had just happened around him. Uchiha Yujin, that boy, 12 years old, awakened the main Jikaio Sharingan. That was one thing. And yes, understandable. However, that eye technique was truly incomprehensible. Everything that just happened made him feel like he was in a dream. Thinking of this, he completely broke down. He looked at Uchiha Yujin, who was harvesting lives in front of him, and roared, "What in the world is your eye technique? Why did we lose so confusingly?" That's right. Even though he hadn't received any damage yet, White Zetsu still felt they had lost. He couldn't describe everything that had happened in these short few minutes. Uchiha-style ninjutsu body technique? He recognized it. Flying Thunder God technique? He knew that too. But when these were combined, in less than 5 minutes, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and those root ninja, as if their minds were confused, their bodies inexplicably appeared under Uchiha Yujin's blade automatically, smoothly becoming souls claimed by his blade. This made him unable to understand. The reason was simple. When the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were fighting him, they too kept shouting impossible. This showed that everyone's minds were still clear, but they just couldn't understand why the situation was occurring. However, he knew very well the effect of making everyone seem confused and become souls claimed by Uchiha Yujin's blade. 9 times out of 10 was due to an eye technique. He knew quite a few of the strange and varied eye techniques of the Uchiha. However, one like Uchiha Yujin's, which was impossible to understand. This was the first time he had seen it. Uchiha Yujin turned a deaf ear to White Zetsu's roar, continuing to swing his blade. Slice. The white blade went in, the red blade came out, and Suikazen Fuguki breathed his last. Then Yujin flicked his hand. He flicked the blood off the blade onto the ground. Phew, Tilda, now it's your turn, you fellow. Uchiha Yujin let out a murky breath. He immediately deactivated the eye technique, Ikemokurin. The eye technique was strong. He was very satisfied with this practical use of the eye technique. The eye technique residing in his left eye as the power that achieves what you want. It was indeed as described. Want it, it will be achieved. He wanted to kill the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist in a short amount of time. The eye technique, Ikemokurin, anchored this future. All the methods he knew would ultimately become the most rational attacks, bringing him the result he desired. Invincible. This eye technique that anchors the future he wants. It truly lived up to being an eye technique obtained by consuming the eye of the divine realm red attribute. Uchiha Yujin finally understood that his red attribute was said to be a one-time attribute. But when this attribute transformed into an eye technique and he used it, he found that the red attribute hadn't disappeared at all. It wasn't a one-time thing at all. It had transformed into his eye technique. This eye technique, like Kamui's, was a rule-breaking eye technique. How rule-breaking exactly? Let's put it this way. He wouldn't trade it even for Otsutsuki Yashimaru's divine technique, Ikemokurin. Also known as Tennoku Hitsugami, Uchiha Yujin turned around and looked at White Zetsu, as expected of an eye technique named after the divine tree. It's so strong it even shocked me. However, his left eye's vision was blurry. This technique was good in every way, except it consumed a massive amount of eye power. See, he had only used it once. His vision was already starting to blur. If he continued to use it at today's output, at most around 7 times, his eyes would probably become unable to see. But Uchiha Yujin wasn't worried about this situation at all. His Senju of the forest attribute was already starting to exert its effect. A trace of coolness was gathering in his left eye. This should be the young release that can restore eye power, right? It's just that the speed is really slow. How slow exactly? The battle wasn't over yet. Uchiha Yujin couldn't calculate. However, it didn't matter. There was another backup in front of him. White Zetsu! Thinking of this, he walked towards White Zetsu. At this moment, White Zetsu also reacted. He immediately tried to sink into the ground. Hey, white guy, where do you think you're running off to? White Zetsu heard Uchiha Yujin's question and immediately raised his eyes to look at him. Do I need to tell you where I'm running off to? Don't be naive, Uchiha boy. Is that so? I don't think you can escape anywhere. Anyone can talk big. Little before White Zetsu could finish speaking, what appeared in his eyes was Uchiha Yujin's glittering Manjikayo Sharingan. Buzz eye power struck, and White Setsu instantly became dazed for a moment. It's Genjutsu. He was careless. When facing an Uchiha one-on-one, you shouldn't look them in the eye. This cunning boy. Once I escape, I will definitely have Madara come over and eliminate you in your infancy. You boy are too dangerous. Knowing he had been hit, White Setsu quickly gathered chakra. Chakra destroyed part of his body tissue, allowing him to break free from the Genjutsu. Pretty capable, aren't you? It's already too late. Uchiha Yujin smiled coldly. Woo! A kunai wrapped in a flying thunder god technique tag struck his head before White Setsu could fully react. For a White Setsu, this was not a fatal wound. As a biological weapon designed by Kaguya, especially him, the most special among them, he was not some mass-produced item that would die from being pierced in the head. Damn boy, do you think you've won like this? Grabbing the kunai, White Setsu pulled it out of his head. Seeing this, the corner of Uchiha Yujin's mouth curved into a mocking arc. You finally took the bait. Took what bait? Of course, it's that I've marked you. As the words abruptly fell, the tag wrapped around the kunai in White Setsu's hand changed. Hiss, with a sound, runes swam out from it. Climbing over White Setsu's arm, they rapidly gathered at his heart, forming a comma-shaped rune. What is this? White Setsu was greatly alarmed. He was actually entangled by these inexplicable runes. This gave him a new understanding of Uchiha Yujin's cunning. He decided that as long as he escaped with his life, he would advise Madara that this child must be killed quickly and not be allowed to linger. Otherwise, if this little brat continued to develop, who knew how strong he would become? That's my flying thunder god technique. Uchiha Yujin looked at White Setsu with a smiling expression, speaking with certainty. You have nowhere to run. Hearing this, White Setsu's heart sank. He knew this technique. Once marked, this boy could instantly move to his side. He truly had nowhere to run. Futility. White Setsu seemed to have made some kind of decision. Since I can't escape, then I'll fight with all my might. Plap. He brought his hands together. Chakra surged around him. White Setsu roared ferociously. Wood release. Wood golem technique. Hash 43 Chapter 43. Harvesting the White Setsu body. As White Setsu's words fell, a giant Buddha statue with countless giant arms stood tall in this forest. Wood release? Is the height a bit off? Uchiha Yujin was very puzzled when he saw that the wood golem was only about 30 meters tall. Now he had recognized the special White Setsu, Tobi. However, at this stage, Obito hadn't mixed with them yet, so he naturally had no name. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yujin suddenly understood. I said why the height of this wood golem wasn't right. So it turns out the time period wasn't here yet. He remembered. This guy Tobi wanted his wood release to reach the level of Senju Hashirama, and also wanted it to have the ability of the 5 elemental releases. He needed this guy Yamato. Just as Uchiha Yujin was thinking about this, Tobi controlled the giant wood golem to raise its fist, and smashed it towards Yujin. You damn boy! Why do people always pin their hopes on things they can't do? Facing this straightforward attack, Uchiha Yujin sighed. Then he lowered his eyes and twisted the hilt of his ninja sword. Whoosh! In an instant, his figure appeared behind Tobi. Hachai! The ninja sword pierced Tobi's body. I say, did you forget that I know the flying thunder god technique? Uchiha Yujin mocked with a smile behind Tobi. Uchiha boy, you fell for it. Did you really think I would forget about this? Tobi turned his head and sneered at Uchiha Yujin. After saying this, Tobi's body began to squirm. Seeing this, Uchiha Yujin's Sharingan seemed to see something, and his expression changed. Not good. Yujin quickly swung his ninja sword. Rip! Tobi's body was thus cut in half. Following Tobi being cut in half, the giant Buddha's statue underfoot also changed. Amidst the rumbling sound, the wood release was thus dispelled. Good, indeed worthy of being the most special White Setsu. You even have this ability to sacrifice your tail to survive. Uchiha Yujin's expression was neither good nor bad. He looked at the 2 halves of the White Setsu body on the ground, feeling a bit emotional. He still let him escape. That wood release was just a diversion. Yujin realized. When that wood golem was deployed, Tobi had already used the cover of the wood statue to secretly burrow underground with the part of his body containing his consciousness. By sacrificing most of his body, he rendered the flying thunder god technique ineffective. The part of his body that was not marked by the flying thunder god technique, which also contained his consciousness, escaped. It truly made Uchiha Yujin marvel, as expected of a formidable character from the original work who could stir up trouble with Obito and survive until the 4th Great Ninja War. But I didn't lose out either. The biggest trophy can be considered to be in hand. Uchiha Yujin looked at the white remains on the ground. His spirit was lifted. White Setsu cell, and it was the Tobi version of White Zetsu Cell. How powerful the Tobi version of White Zetsu Cell was. Uchiha Obito in the original timeline, with his unrestrained Kamui, had shown this to the fullest. This gain truly excited him. He was indeed no longer afraid of the side effect of blindness because of the Senju trait and the ability to upgrade the trait later. But other Uchiha were afraid. After this mission where he was manipulated in various ways, he was completely awakened. He needed to build his own power. This situation of being manipulated, and then being easily betrayed after being manipulated. He never wanted to experience it again. This time, if it weren't for his trait, which gave him a powerful visual jutsu that exceeded the enemy's predictions. Facing the lineup of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist plus Special White Zetsu plus Root Ninja, he might have lost his life. This situation where his life was in someone else's hands made him extremely disgusted. As for building power, he planned to start within the Uchiha clan. The reason was simple. The Uchiha were relatively easy to deal with, as long as you could defeat them and possess stronger ocular power than them, and at the same time be eloquent. You could fool them. The Uchiha were such a clan. If you want me to listen to you, you have to defeat me first. Madara was like this, Obito was like this, and Sasuke was even more so. These 3 typical Uchiha all had various ideas at the beginning. After being defeated, they immediately had a complete change of stance. Moreover, he was a genuine descendant of the Hokage lineage, so it should be even easier to fool the Uchiha clan, who had already made the position of Hokage their long-cherished wish. Since he decided to start building power from the Uchiha, this special White Zetsu body that could prevent the Mangekyo Sharingan from going blind was an extremely important resource. Thinking of this, he walked towards the remains of the White Zetsu. Yujin carefully collected the 2 halves of the White Zetsu body and sealed them in a spatial scroll. Just as he turned to collect the other trophies, the 7 special ninja swords of the Hidden Mist, there was some movement in the forest. More ambushes? Uchiha Yujin was a little confused. Could the Hidden Mist village, controlled by Madara, still have a backup plan? Just as he was about to draw his ninja sword, his Sharingan caught a glimpse of a green light. From that green light, he saw a familiar chakra operation pattern. He immediately relaxed. Who told us so? It's this guy. Seeing the person who arrived, Yujin closed his Sharingan and gently let out a breath of turbid air. His whole body's tense nerves also relaxed. Boom boom. The figure that made the air roar accelerated in the air and landed not far from Yujin. The figure emitting green light saw Uchiha Yujin. Yujin Jonin, are you alright? The Uchiha clothing was easy to recognize, and this figure immediately recognized him. Except for one who escaped. All the other enemies have been defeated by me. You can release the 8 gates release. Daisan hearing this figure scanned the surroundings. When he saw that besides Uchiha Yujin, everyone else was lying down, he relieved the 8 gates release with peace of mind. Oh, it seems the enemies weren't very strong. Was the intelligence wrong? By the way, how did Yujin Jonin recognize me? Might Dai, who had released the 8 gates release, was a little puzzled. Logically, a genius like this shouldn't recognize him. How did he recognize him? Regarding Might Dai's confusion, Uchiha Yujin sighed helplessly. During this time, I've been Might Dai's team leader Jonin after all, so I still recognize his father. This was a lie. The main reason he could recognize him was the thick eyebrows and the tight suit, which were too distinctive. Also, in this incident, Might Dai was supposed to arrive around this time to save Might Dai, Shiranui Genma, and Ibisu. Uchiha Yujin, who had responded to Might Dai, walked toward the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and picked up their ninja swords one by one. At the same time, he also cut off the heads of the ninja who had attacked him, including the heads of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He sealed them all in a scroll. Might Dai, who was beside him, finally saw the faces of those ninja at this moment, and these special ninja swords. When he saw all this, he was so shocked that his mouth dropped open. #44 Chapter 44 Yuma's advice. Not long ago, Mado Dai obtained some intelligence. The intelligence stated that his child, Might Dai, would be ambushed by the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He immediately rushed over in a panic. However, when he saw Might Dai and his companions were safe on the way, he breathed a sigh of relief. When he heard that their squad leader, Uchiha Yujin, also said that the attacking enemies were very strong, moved by the other party's act of covering their retreat, he immediately rushed over, wanting to provide support. Who knew that after arriving, he saw that only this Uchiha Yujin was standing. Everyone else was lying down. He even wondered if the intelligence was wrong. These guys weren't the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. They were just ordinary ninja. But now, after clearly seeing the faces of those corpses and the weapons that Uchiha Yujin had collected and sealed into scrolls, he was shocked to discover that these guys were truly the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, as Kiragaku's signboard, were practically known to everyone in the ninja world. Everyone was very clear about the relevant personnel information. You couldn't not be clear. Ninja with such great fame, every ninja village would put a lot of effort into promoting them, using them as a signboard to attract customers and increase the volume of hiring quotas. As a result, this combination of ninja, who possessed both fame and strength, were actually killed by Uchiha Yushin alone. This gave him a huge shock. Uchiha Yushin, a Konoha special jonin, nicknamed Flying Thunder God Yushin, as a rising supernova of Konoha and a ninja with a title, he was generally a very strong existence. He knew all of this, but knowing was one thing. He still didn't have a concrete concept of how strong he specifically was. Now, seeing this situation, how could he not know? This Uchiha Yushin, his overall strength had already reached the realm of a Hokage. Looking at Uchiha Yushin's handsome yet youthful face, he was truly shocked beyond belief. Reaching the realm of a Hokage in his teens, it was truly unbelievable. At this moment, Uchiha Yushin, who had already collected all the spoils of war, came to Mato Dai's side. Seeing his horrified expression, he also felt a bit helpless. Now he could predict, after he killed the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, what kind of growth his reputation would usher in. He believed that in a few days, his title would no longer be in the state it was before, having just risen. Instead, it would completely resound throughout the ninja world. Sai Tilda, let's go, Uncle Dai, Mike Guy and the others should be waiting for us. Yushin, who had sighed, reminded Mato Dai before. With a movement of his feet, he flashed away from this battlefield. After Uchiha Yushin and Mato Dai met up with Might Guy, Shiranui Genma, and Abisu, after a night's journey, they arrived at Konoha's main camp. Entering the camp, Uchiha Yushin, as the leader, walked toward the tent of the camp's commander with relaxed steps. The reason his steps were relaxed was simple. The commander of this coastline was Uchiha Fugaku, as the head of the security force, one of Konoha's top department leaders. On this battle line, as the highest ranking person, the commander would only be, and could only be, Uchiha Fugaku. Fugaku's tent wasn't far either, less than 2 minutes walk. Yushin arrived here, lifted the cloth curtain, and leisurely walked in. Inside the tent, Uchiha Fugaku, who had been waiting here for a long time, seeing Uchiha Yushin enter, and in good condition, nodded with great satisfaction. You've worked hard, Yushin-kun. It wasn't easy to escape from the hands of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist with those 3 genin. Fugaku's sigh was from the heart. Knowing that Uchiha Yushin could use the Flying Thunder God technique, he wasn't very worried about his safety. But for this boy Yushin, being able to escape with those 3 burdens, he felt it was somewhat unbelievable. Hearing this, Yushin, who had come before Uchiha Fugaku, his expression turned serious. He handed 2 scrolls to Uchiha Fugaku. What are these? Uchiha Fugaku took the scrolls, looking at Yushin with some doubt. Lord Fugaku, you'd best call the intelligence squad ninja over, and also summon all the jonin in the main camp. These 2 scrolls, one contains the attackers' heads and the other contains the attackers' weapons. Hearing Uchiha Yushin's suggestion, Fugaku raised an eyebrow. Among these 2 scrolls, one contained the attackers' heads. Calling the intelligence squad ninja to read the intelligence could still be considered understandable. But what was the reason for calling all the jonin in the main camp as well? Feeling somewhat puzzled, he immediately asked Yushin, "It's reasonable for the intelligence squad ninja to come, but is it really necessary to call all the jonin in the main camp?" "It is necessary, Lord Fugaku. Open the scroll with the heads, and you'll know why." Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku didn't waste words. He immediately opened the scroll. With a bang, the smoke dispersed, and a dozen heads came into Uchiha Fugaku's sight. He immediately stood up with a whoosh, looking at those heads with a horrified expression. Yushin-kun, this fat head with serrated teeth, that's Suikazen Fuguki, right? That's right. Besides him, there are also the heads of other 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Yushin pointed to the heads of the root ninja with a serious expression, and reminded Uchiha Fugaku in a solemn tone, "These aren't important. What's important are these few people." Hearing Uchiha Yushin's explanation, Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed dramatically. The heads of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist weren't as important as the heads of these few unfamiliar ninja. What is this? Lord Fugaku, call the intelligence squad ninja over and you'll understand everything then. Hearing Yushin's repeated requests, Fugaku, whose expression had suddenly turned serious, nodded solemnly. Immediately, according to Uchiha Yushin's instructions, he summoned the intelligence squad ninja and all the jonin in the main camp. About 10 minutes later, dozens of ninja had gathered inside this tent. The Jonin who had come here all had extremely serious expressions. After all, people who could become Jonin, none of them were foolish. They had encountered the intelligence squad halfway. He had called the intelligence squad and also summoned all the Jonin in the camp. Regarding this, everyone had some guesses. Whether Lord Fugaku had obtained some crucial intelligence. Fugaku sat in the main seat, and after seeing that everyone who should come had arrived, he pointed to the table and said to everyone, "These heads are the reason I called you here." Hearing this, everyone present all looked towards those heads. Oh, if I'm not mistaken, those are the heads of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, right? That's right. Those guys have been harassing us for the past 6 months. It's them. No, how did they die? As soon as these words fell, everyone in the field suddenly realized. They asked Uchiha Fugaku in horror, "Lord Fugaku, what happened? How did they die?" Seeing this, Uchiha Fugaku raised his hand and pressed it down. Following Fugaku's gesture, the field immediately became quiet. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are truly dead, there's no doubt about that. Saying this, Fugaku took out another scroll and threw it towards the ground. Bang, the smoke dispersed and 7 oddly shaped ninja swords appeared on the ground. The ninja swords are also here, and the person who did all of this, Fugaku looked down at Uchiha Yujin, who was standing in the corner, and said solemnly, "It's Yujin-kun." As Fugaku's words suddenly fell, all the Jonin in the field looked towards Uchiha Yujin. #45 Chapter 45 Impeachment of Danzo. Jonin, as high-ranking personnel of a ninja village, have a certain degree of authority within the Jonin class, and their intelligence is more or less well-informed. Uchiha Yujin, be Uchiha Supernova, who has only recently become famous in the past year. They are not unfamiliar at all. Killing Biwa Juzo, engaging Akasuna no Sasori, and being one of the only 2 Flying Thunder God technique users in the village. These are all familiar to everyone. Familiarity is one thing, but to be strong enough to wipe out the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, that was something they couldn't imagine. Yujin-kun is actually this strong? Wiping out the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. This level of strength should be comparable to a Kage of a village? No problem at all. This power is the realm of a Kage. He's only in his teens, right? To be precise, he's 13. The Uchiha are really lucky. Someone like this actually appeared in this era. Who said otherwise? The content of the discussions in the field made another group of Jonin secretly overjoyed. These people were none other than those in the field, the Jonin of the Uchiha clan. To be honest, this boy, Uchiha Yujin, has a very high popularity within their clan. No matter what faction they belong to, they are very optimistic about him. Nothing else. It's just that he is closer to the position of Hokage than any other Uchiha. For them, who have long desired the position of Hokage, Uchiha Yujin is the most outstanding child in the clan. Currently, this achievement is enough to demonstrate his power and is worthy of the position of Hokage. Thinking of this, these Uchiha Jonin stared at Uchiha Yujin with burning eyes. And Uchiha Fugaku, who was in the upper seat, saw all of these situations, especially the burning eyes of the Uchiha clan's Jonin. He was quite helpless about this. Before, this boy, Uchiha Yujin, had stolen the show. He didn't think too much and followed his steps, first gathering everyone. Now, he also reacted. What a shocking thing this boy, Uchiha Yujin, has done. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, plus the heads that needed to be investigated by the intelligence unit. In total, it was a Jonin squad of over a dozen people, and Uchiha Yujin was capable of wiping out such a group, a team that could fight a small battle and defeat a small country. It truly shocked him to the point of being numb. He couldn't help but be numb. He watched this boy grow from a 2-tomo Sharingan to this level. Now he can ask himself, can he beat this boy, Uchiha Yujin? He can't. Absolutely can't. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are the hidden mist signature, composed of elite Jonin. During this time, as the commander of this coastline, he had also fought against them. He knows very well that the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist only need to send out 3 people to take him down, and Uchiha Yujin directly killed all of them. Who is stronger and who is weaker is already very clear. As someone who watched Uchiha Yujin go from 2-tomo to his current strength, which is above his own, his shock towards this boy is above everyone else's. This boy is a genius, a monster. He couldn't say for sure. However, it didn't matter. He just needed to know that this boy was on his side. Thinking of this, Uchiha Fugaku cut off his thoughts. He looked at the noisy scene. He lightly coughed. Everyone please be quiet for now. Yujin-kun said that the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are not the most important. The important thing is the intelligence from these heads. Hearing this, Uchiha Yujin took a step forward and said to everyone in the field, I will remember everyone's praise in my heart and use it as motivation to continue contributing to Konoha. Saying this, he pointed at the root ninja's head with a serious expression and continued, however, in this encounter I found that these ninja were somewhat abnormal. Those abnormalities made me feel a bit frightened, which is why I asked Lord Fugaku to call everyone together. Intelligence Unit Senior, no matter what you see later, tell everyone directly. As soon as his words fell, the field fell silent. The Jonin present, their expressions were extremely serious at this moment. Their idea was very simple. Is there some fatal intelligence about the hidden mist village in these few? Otherwise, why would this boy be so serious? Regarding the thoughts of these people, Uchiha Yujin knew some of them through the expressions of the Jonin in the field. He was very much looking forward to it when the intelligence unit ninja conveyed the intelligence from the root ninjas' minds. What kind of huge waves would appear? Uchiha Yujin was extremely disgusted with Danzo Shimura, who arranged him to this battlefield. He was not the type to suffer a loss. You arranged me here and even colluded with outside forces to assassinate me. Then don't blame me for giving you a big one. You know, the will of fire that Konoha village has always promoted. It encourages friendship, bonds, and sacrifice. Although in the hearts of the higher-ups, the last one, sacrifice, is the most important. But on the surface, the first two are the main focus of political propaganda. Danzo Shimura's actions of arranging ninja he dislikes to designated locations, and then colluding with outside forces to assassinate comrades. As long as all the Jonin in the field know about it, with his bond with hers and Sarutobi, this kind of assassination will be forgiven. This guy won't necessarily fall. This kind of news spread through the Jonin, even if Hiruzen Sarutobi covers for him afterwards his reputation. But in the Jonin class, it will be completely ruined. Just this one point, his dream of becoming Hokage Danzo. From now on, it has nothing to do with him. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yujin secretly sneered. Danzo, don't you want to be Hokage the most? If you provoke me, I will directly turn all your dreams and obsessions into nothing. Presumably, this situation will definitely be worse than death for him. At this moment, in the field, 3 ninja from the intelligence unit walked out, bowed slightly to Uchiha Fugaku and the people in the field. Then they came to the heads. They didn't waste any words and directly activated the technique to invade the brains and extract intelligence. As the technique progressed, their faces became increasingly grim. Cold sweat instantly broke out. Seeing this situation, everyone in the field except Uchiha Yujin was a bit confused. What exactly caused these guys' faces to become so grim? Yeah, as intelligence unit ninja, it should become no matter what intelligence they face. Everyone in the field's curiosity was aroused, including Uchiha Fugaku. This boy Uchiha Yujin's repeated emphasis, the change in the intelligence unit ninja's expressions. Curious about this, after seeing the intelligence unit ninja finish their work with cold sweat dripping, he asked with interest, everyone, can you tell us what the intelligence is? Hash 46 Chapter 46 Madara's surprise hearing Fugaku's question. The 3 ninja of the intelligence squad looked at each other. You look at me, I look at you, and you don't know what to do. Just say whatever it is. So many Jonin are here, nothing will happen. Uchiha Yujin saw that these 3 were hesitant and understood why they were like this. Danzo Shimura, as an elder with real power, as a Jonin, everyone still knows him. These 3 from the intelligence squad were so hesitant because they were afraid of offending this guy. That's right, speak up boldly. Dozens of us Jonin are here. If something happens, we'll all bear it together. Fugaku, who was beside him, was not stupid either. A fool couldn't be the Uchiha clan head. From Yujin's words and the appearance of these 3, he knew that this intelligence was probably related to his village. His mind also raced, thinking that this intelligence should be beneficial to Uchiha Yujin. Otherwise, this boy wouldn't have repeatedly emphasized that the intelligence should be made public. And as one of the few powerhouses in the Uchiha now, and the light of hope for the Uchiha to compete for Hokage, being beneficial to Uchiha Yujin is beneficial to the Uchiha. Thinking to this point, Uchiha Fugaku immediately gave these 3 this verbal promise. Upon seeing the commander's promise, these 3 also breathed a sigh of relief. Plus the dozens of Jonin in the field, if they said it, it meant everyone would know. With so many Jonin knowing, Danzo Shimura's trouble would be great. How could he still have the energy to find trouble with their intelligence ninja? Besides, they were acting according to the law and were beyond reproach. Thinking about it, they suddenly felt confident. After thinking about it, the 3 immediately told the intelligence they had extracted from the heads of those root ninja, one by one. Elder Danzo deliberately arranged for Uchiha Yujin to be on this battlefield. Then he conspired with the hidden mist village Mizukage to dispatch the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist to assassinate Uchiha Yujin. When these two pieces of intelligence were revealed, the tent instantly became extremely silent, where a pin drop could be heard. After the three ninja of the intelligence squad returned to their positions, whoosh, the field immediately exploded. Yujin Jonin is actually this strong? The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist plus the root Jonin. This kind of power can already influence a battle. That's right. As expected of flying thunder god Yujin, he actually eliminated such strong enemies in a short time. Wait, what should be paid more attention to is the other situation they explain. The mysterious change in Yujin Jonin's eyes during the battle. While the ordinary Jonin were amazed at the strength of Uchiha Yujin, they also noticed that the intelligence mentioned the change in Yujin's Sharingan. Regarding this, all the Uchiha in the field, including Fugaku, also noticed this point. Immediately, someone asked the ninja of the intelligence squad, "You said that little Yujin, adults Sharingan changed during the battle?" And Uchiha Jonin stood up anxiously. Yes, the intelligence in the mind is like this. Whoosh, the Uchiha ninja all stood up looking at Yujin with shocked eyes. Yujin adult, what was that change in the Sharingan? In response, Uchiha Yujin calmly nodded and replied to their doubts, "That's right, it's as you think. As for the specific situation, I will explain it clearly to clan head Fugaku later. As for what everyone wants to know, you can only wait until I return to the village and explain it at the clan meeting. There's no need to hide the Manjikai or Sharingan. This is the ninja world, and his identity is an Uchiha ninja. He is a bloodline limit ninja. When your bloodline limit development is high, it will only bring you positive feedback in terms of reputation and benefits." Hearing Uchiha Yujin's admission, Fugaku walked to his side. He heavily patted Yujin's shoulder. He was filled with emotion. The god's power of the Uchiha, after so many years, finally descended upon the Uchiha again. Thinking of this, he hated Danzo immensely. He knew that this guy was the #1 anti-Uchiha person in the village. Since he colluded with outside forces and was ruthless towards his village companions, he shouldn't be blamed. Bang! Thinking of this, Fugaku heavily slapped the table. Everyone quiet down. As for Yujin Kun's strength, you can discuss it after the meeting. Now, what I want to explain is that Danzo colluded with Hidden Mist to harm his companions, and has no will of fire in his heart. As the commander of the coastline, I want to impeach him. When Fugaku's words suddenly fell, the Jonin in the field suddenly remembered. That's right! Danzo Shimura, what he did this time was truly too much. This proposal is good. Let's all sign a joint letter to report this guy Danzo. He's really gone too far. That's right. Elder Danzo is truly disgusting. To treat his companions like this, even going so far as to meticulously plan an assassination. Exactly. Everyone have heard of his reputation as the darkness of the ninja, and we thought this title was used for people outside the village. Who knew that he even treated his village companions this way? Does he still have the will of fire in his heart? If so, why would he do such a thing? The enraged Jonin, after learning of Danzo's actions, immediately decided to support Fugaku's impeachment proposal. There was nothing they could do. This guy was simply too abusive of his power. If he could target Uchiha Yujin like this today, who knows if he would do the same to them next time. Beside them, Uchiha Yujin, who saw this situation, felt incredibly exhilarated. Things were progressing better than he had anticipated. Danzo Shimura, as long as he was reported by the Jonin in a joint letter, his reputation would be completely ruined. Still want to become Hokage? Wash up and go to sleep. You can have anything in your dreams. Thinking of this, the corner of Yujin's mouth could no longer be suppressed, and it curved into a joyful arc. At the same time, the special white Zetsu, who did not yet have the name Tobi, finally escaped to Uchiha Madara's side. After recovering his body by absorbing ordinary white Zetsu, he spoke to Uchiha Madara, explaining every detail of this mission, word by word. "What? Are you telling the truth?" Uchiha Madara's eyes widened, and he asked urgently, "That boy has already opened the Manjikayo, and he defeated you with a visual jutsu?" "Des, Madara." Who tilde Uchiha Madara lightly exhaled. He needed to calm down. Manjikayo at 10 years old? What was he doing when he was 10 years old? He remembered. When he was 10 years old, he was still skipping stones with Hashirama. It was only after his father forced him to break ties with Hashirama that he awakened the one-tomo Sharingan. This boy absolutely cannot be left alive. Madara's eyes became increasingly cold. His talent is too strong. He's completely a monster. He will definitely affect our plan in the future. Madara recalled all the information about Uchiha Yujin in his mind. This boy, during this time, had no deeply painful experiences at all. Without such an experience, he awakened the Manjikayo Sharingan. There is only one explanation. His talent is too strong. so strong that he doesn't need to go through heart-wrenching events. He can even awaken the main Jikayo Sharingan. Plus that mysterious visual jutsu that White Setsu mentioned. This boy is too dangerous. In the future, we need to place a dozen or so White Setsu around him to monitor him daily. Then we will analyze his actions and make targeted plans. If it really doesn't work, I'll go myself. Black Setsu heard this and chuckled. Heh. Understood, Madara. Black Setsu also felt that this boy's ability was somewhat heaven-defying. It would be better to get rid of him. After thinking for a moment, he suggested to Madara, since we want to get rid of this boy, the power of Hidden Mist is also necessary. After notifying the Mizukage, we will plan carefully. Madara stroked his chin, pondered for a moment, and replied, Okay, to make them take it seriously, I'll send the intelligence to the Mizukage first. When the Hidden Mist village learned that the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were completely wiped out, the entire village immediately exploded. #47 Chapter 47 I am the Hokage. What's going on? The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are our signboard, and every member is an elite when chosen. How could they all be killed so easily by an Uchiha? Lord Water Shadow, is there something wrong with your intelligence? Genma felt unable to accept what the 3rd generation Water Shadow had said, or rather, unwilling to believe it. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were both the signboard of their Hidden Mist village and their top combat force. To die so easily at the hands of one person, this situation would be unacceptable in any village. The 3rd generation Water Shadow couldn't give a better response to Genma's disbelief. Controlled by someone, his mind had always been in a dazed state. At this moment, he could only follow Uchiha Madara's control and say to Genma, whether you believe it or not, the annihilation of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist is reality. Given the current situation, let's summon the important Jonin in the village. As a Jinjutsu puppet, he wanted to execute the orders given by Madara well. He tried his best to pin the hatred for the death of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist on Uchiha. Not long after, within the Hidden Mist village, apart from the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, several other important Jonin, led by Hokage Akira, arrived at the Mizukage's office. After Hokage Akira entered, he politely asked the 3rd generation Water Shadow and Genma, Lord Water Shadow, Lord Genma, did you call us here suddenly for something important? Hearing this, the 3rd generation Water Shadow looked at Genma and gestured, Genma, tell them about the intelligence. Genma sighed helplessly. The reason for summoning you all here is that the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist have been completely annihilated, and as the pillars of the Hidden Mist village, Lord Water Shadow and I have decided to inform you of this news first, so we can discuss what to do next. As soon as Genma finished speaking, Hokage Akira urgently asked, Lord Genma, what exactly happened? How could the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist just disappear? He couldn't help but be anxious. As a perfect Jinchuriki, with the 3rd generation Water Shadow aging, he was currently the Hidden Mist village's highest combat force. With good leadership and charisma, he had already been internally designated by Genma as the next Mizukage. Now, as the prospective Mizukage, hearing that his village signboard had been annihilated, it was impossible not to be anxious. It was Uchiha, that little brat who killed Biwa Juzo, who annihilated the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Genma replied to Hokage Akira, then began to carefully explain the intelligence provided by the 3rd generation Water Shadow. The Jonin who had just arrived heard this intelligence. Their expressions drastically changed. How could that Uchiha be so strong? Exactly. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist aren't just anyone. They are only appointed from the most elite ninja in our village. How could they be? By a little brat? Yeah. Hokage Akira frowned and shouted, stopping the noise in the room. The facts are as they are. That Uchiha must have already awakened the ultimate power of the Uchiha, the main Jikayo Sharingan. Otherwise, it would be absolutely impossible to annihilate the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Main Jikayo Sharingan? Genma heard Hokage Akira's words and immediately asked impatiently, Akira, where did you get that judgment? Genma was someone in the Hidden Mist village from the same period as the 3rd generation Water Shadow. They had both experienced the ninja village era, the time when it first began. What the main Jikayo Sharingan represented, he couldn't be more clear. Yes, without a doubt. Isabu told me, Hokage Akira said in a deep voice, only by awakening that incredible Ikane Uchiha achieved this. Everyone present knew what a perfect Jinchuriki was. This was a state that could only be reached by a partner who trusted the tailed beast implicitly, and a tailed beast, as beings who had lived from ancient times until now. Their words would likely not be wrong. Besides, it had no reason to deceive humans. Main Jikayo Sharingan, the controlled 3rd generation Water Shadow said with feigned emotion. This power must be eradicated. From now on, the village forces will focus on dealing with this guy, Lord Water Shadow. That's impossible. Janma immediately became anxious upon hearing this, and Uchiha with the Manjikayo Sharingan is unstoppable. We should avoid their edge, not confront them head-on. What you say makes sense, but I am the Mizukage, and this is the Mizukage's order. Immediately, Janma and the Mizukage began arguing fiercely over this point, and the impact of Uchiha Yujin annihilating the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist also spread with this meeting. It began to spread throughout the hidden mist village. His fame officially resounded throughout the entire village of Bloody Mist. On the other side, Konoha village wasn't doing much better. Uchiha Yujin annihilating the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and the report from the entire coastline camp Impeaching Danzo both arrived on Hiruzen Sarutobai's desk at the same time. Exhaling the last puff of smoke, Hiruzen Sarutobai put down his pipe. He raised his eyes and looked at Danzo with sharp gaze. Do you have anything you want to explain? HMPH. No, Danzo snorted coldly and said irritably, everything this old man did was for Konoha. This was a lie. He knew clearly in his heart that he had taken such action because of prejudice. Danzo, you give us this kind of excuse? Hiruzen Sarutobai was somewhat exasperated and slammed the table, colluding with outsiders to kill comrades. Your actions already amount to treason against the village. This old man's actions are correct. Take a good look at the report. This little brat has already awakened the Manjikayo Sharingan. Doesn't this mean his evil has penetrated to the bone? An evil Uchiha must be brought to justice, Danzo explained fiercely to Hiruzen Sarutobai. Hearing this, Hiruzen Sarutobai didn't comment. The Manjikayo Sharingan. As a ninja who had lived through that era, he couldn't be more clear about this power, and his teacher Senju Tabarama's research, he hadn't not seen it either. As early as when Uchiha Yujin displayed unparalleled talent, he had already set his psychological expectations. He predicted that this boy might become a strong individual like Uchiha Madara, but a Manjikayo Sharingan at the age of just over 10 was truly unheard of and unseen. Regarding this intelligence, Hiruzen Sarutobai could only sigh. This boy Yujin is truly terrifying. Fortunately, he was his disciple's disciple. There was no need for any precautions. It was simple. Whatever brilliant achievements he made, as the current peak of the master-disciple lineage, he would share a shred of glory. In a situation where his interests were unharmed, he wouldn't bother with what Danzo said. What evil or not evil? Having been Hokage for decades, could he still not see through it? His teacher, Senju Tabarama, wasn't it because of the millennium-long feud with the Uchiha, coupled with several of his own brothers being killed by Uchiha? That's why he spoke such heart-piercing words. I finished listening to your sophistry. Then, you should temporarily step down from the leadership position of Root. With the joint impeachment by dozens of Jonin, I can't suppress this news either. You should first stay home and reflect for a while. Seeing that Hiruzen Sarutobai didn't care about his words at all, Danzo turned around in a strange mood. That boy is really dangerous. If you don't listen to me, you will regret it in the future. Hiruzen. Hearing this, Hiruzen Sarutobai lowered his eyelids, feeling extremely annoyed by Danzo's continued defiance at this moment. Shut up, Danzo. I will make the appropriate judgment on the specific situation. I don't need you to dictate. You should know, I am the Hokage. As his voice fell, Danzo slammed the door and left. #48 Chapter 48. Prepare to upgrade entries. Danzo Shimura was impeached by the Jonin on the front lines. This information exploded in Konoha. Information that explodes means it cannot be hidden, and the spies hidden throughout Konoha. Thus, related information was transmitted to the desks of the major ninja villages. Uchiha, a Manjikayo Sharingan in his early teens, wiped out the Jonin team led by the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Onoki flipped through the intelligence report and felt something was wrong. He had always remembered being crushed by Uchiha Madara's power along with his teacher back then. After much difficulty, the Uchiha had been in decline for decades, with no notable figures causing trouble in the ninja world. He had almost forgotten this history. Suddenly, this intelligence report appeared. It made him feel somewhat hurt. This Uchiha Yujin, based on the intelligence, his wings are full and his combat power is formed. He can be considered someone who has fully realized his talent. Thinking of this, Onoki continued to read the report. Flying Thunder God technique. Manjikayo, around 13 years old. Bang. A combination of the Senju's technique and the Uchiha's bloodline power? Where did this monster come from? Onoki was truly extremely uncomfortable. He had originally planned, even if this boy's combat power was considerable, but looking at his age, he should be able to exploit his lack of experience, using this to make a fuss and see if this threat could be eliminated. Who knew? He actually knew the Flying Thunder God technique. Outrageous. Truly outrageous. If this boy develops for a few more years and reaches Uchiha Madara's level, how can we possibly survive? The furious Onoki suddenly stood up from his seat, just as he was about to continue slamming the table to vent. Frack, ho tilde, someone help this old man up. This old man threw out his back, putting aside Onoki's old problem. Within Hidden Cloud Village, the AB duo also received this intelligence. Brother, this Uchiha Yujin is very powerful. He is such an optimist. When a genius appears in an enemy village, as long as he thinks the record looks good, he will praise him directly. HMPH. Don't praise him. This guy is Minato Namikaze's disciple. This Uchiha little brat actually awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. If we encounter him on the battlefield in the future, just eliminate him directly. Mangekyo Sharingan. This power. Other ninja villages might not be clear, but Hidden Cloud Village is very clear. The reason is simple. The Hidden Cloud Village and the Uchiha are direct competitors in the Land of Lightning. The lucrative position of overseeing the Shinobi clan has always been held by the Uchiha. When Hidden Cloud Village was first established, they also wanted to take this lucrative position. Who knew? They were beaten black and blue by the Uchiha during their peak. Thus, the records of the Mangekyo within Hidden Cloud Village are not lacking at all. This Uchiha Yujin, at such a young age, with such strength, he must not be allowed to continue developing. Currently, the village predicts that a ninja world war is inevitable. If he encounters him in the future, he will definitely kill this boy. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, it has been a month since the complete annihilation of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. At this moment, in the Land of Fire, in a quiet forest, Uchiha Yujin sat cross-legged. He is currently on his way back to Konoha alone, feeling a bit tired, and is taking a short rest here. He is very satisfied with his current situation. Everything has not exceeded his expectations. When Danzo was impeached, the 3rd Hokage directly removed him from his position as root leader. Next was the appeasement towards himself. There is nothing to say. He was promoted to Jonin, and the corresponding monetary compensation was also in place one by one. There will also be rewards of ninjutsu or special ninja tools later, but he can only choose one of the two. Regarding this, he had already made a decision in his mind. In terms of ninjutsu, he wanted to learn Edo Tensei, but the village would not teach it, and learning other ninjutsu would not be of much use. Within the Uchiha clan, they are not short of that little ninjutsu resource. He wanted to go back and directly take the 2nd Hokage special ninja tool, the Raging Sword. See if he can obtain a trait. That's right, he has his eye on the ninja tools trait. This has to be mentioned about his harvest this time. I didn't expect that weapon traits that cannot be applied to people could actually be used this way. Not long ago, when he sealed the weapons of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist into scrolls. Upon touching them, he obtained the corresponding traits. Among those traits, some were useful. For example, chakra absorption and integration blue. Weapons equipped with this trait will love the corresponding chakra. Effect: absorb chakra to feed back to the wielder. There is a certain possibility for the weapon to develop sentience. Lightning attachment blue. After equipping the trait, your weapon will be entwined with lightning. Effect: lightning affinity. Lightning summoning. Inject chakra to induce and generate lightning chakra mimicry blue. After equipping the trait, the weapon will gain the power of transformation. Effect: inject chakra. The weapon grows larger after injecting chakra. Form a chakra aggregate to gain powerful destructive force. These 3 are the traits of Same Hata Akiba and Hurame Kari respectively. They are all very useful, and he plans to install them on his ninja sword later. As for the other 3, the traits of Shibuki, Nuibari, and Kabitori were not very useful. The trait description indicated that corresponding devices were needed for installation. For him, who only wants to use a katana, they have no value whatsoever. At that time, he was speechless about what to do with these weapon traits he didn't plan to use. He couldn't equip them himself, and he didn't want to use mechanical type weapons. At that time, as if sensing his headache, the system directly made changes and prompts. That prompt indicated that weapon or tool traits he couldn't use in the future could be converted into corresponding combat points. At that time, he didn't even think about it and directly converted those 3 traits into combat points. Nothing to say. Blue corresponds to 100 combat points. On the spot, he gained 300 combat points. Currently, his combat points, adding the defeat of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and 5 root ninja, 12 enemies of Jonin level, 100 points each, a total of 1200 points. And the biggest one, the special envoy White Setsu Tobi, Ki, who has not yet been strengthened by Yamato, is indeed not as strong as in the 4th Great Ninja War in the original timeline, but he still has the strength of a basic shadow level at the very least. and the gain from defeating this shadow-level expert was directly 1,000 points. Thus, after that battle, he gained a total of 2,500 combat points. Now let me see which traits need to be strengthened. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yujin's thoughts went to the panel. Host, Uchiha Yujin gender, male age, 13 strength, shadow traits: child of space-time, gold genius, gold fate of illusion, gold. Uchiha purple steel training, purple Manjikayo Sharingan, purple Senju of the forest, blue Uchiha style, blue natural energy affinity, blue flying thunder god technique, blue medical genius, blue chakra seed, green. Special traits: lightning attachment, blue chakra mimicry, blue chakra absorption and integration, blue. Combat points, 2,570 The system is quite smart. It actually categorized weapon or tool traits and included them in special traits. However, this is not the important part. Yujin's thoughts churned in his mind, over 2,500 combat points. He has already decided where to spend them. #49 Chapter 49. The appearance of wood release. Since Uchiha Madara has already taken notice, then preventing white Setsu's prying is a must. The trait natural energy affinity, blue, must be strengthened to the purple trait level. He believed that a trait reaching this level would definitely allow him to more easily capture natural energy, thereby developing his own Sage mode. And Sage mode combined with sensory ability, as shown in the original work, can detect white Setsu. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yujin's heart stirred. His combat value flickered for a moment. After consuming 1,000 points, the value changed from 2,570 to 1,570. Correspondingly, the strengthened trait also changed. Natural energy affinity, purple. You are a person who is one with nature. Effect: natural energy can be easily captured into your body. Chakra increases significantly. Nature will no longer backlash against you. As expected, the trait system is extraordinary. Uchiha Yujin was incredibly excited. If the effect of this trait is truly as displayed on the system, then his own Sage mode, he presumed, wouldn't take him too much time to create. Being able to easily capture natural energy and not fearing natural energy backlash, then after returning he would desperately experiment with the ratio of natural energy and chakra. Sage mode would be within reach sooner or later. Next, the incredibly excited Uchiha Yujin immediately looked at the trait panel. The natural energy trait had already given him such a big surprise. With leftover combat value, he wanted to strike while the iron was hot, because the trait he was about to upgrade next would be the one that truly brought about a qualitative change for him. With a thought, combat value was consumed. The Senju bloodline limit trait changed from blue to purple. Senju of the forest, purple. The Senju bloodline limit will be carried forward and glorified in your hands. Effect: life force and yang release are greatly increased. The sprout of wood will bloom in your hands. Combat value continued to decrease. 1,570 became 570. Uchiha Yujin's mind no longer cared about that small amount. Thinking of the changes he would experience after the upgraded trait was installed in him, he impatiently ordered the system install trait. The moment the system installed the upgraded trait into his body under his command, Uchiha Yujin felt that everything was different. An overflowing life force spontaneously erupted from within his body. Yang release chakra surged even more directly from the life wheel in his lower abdomen. This surge of chakra, after merging with his life force, rushed straight towards his eyes. Before Uchiha Yujin could react, this energy reached his eyes. Uchiha Yujin felt a coolness brewing in his eye sockets. This feeling: has the vision in my left eye recovered? The vision in his left eye had decreased after using the pupil technique Ikemokiren during that battle. Although the blue trait level of the Senju bloodline limit helped it recover, it took too long. And now, with this upgrade to a purple trait, his vision had fully recovered. It seems my Senju bloodline is now on the same level as Albedo's white Setsu cells, both capable of allowing the power of the Manjikayo to be used without restraint. Uchiha Yujin exclaimed with emotion. The Manjikayo's pupil techniques were useful, very useful, but for the Uchiha, they were eye-destroying. However, this problem would no longer bother him in the future. He would be like Uchiha Albedo in the original work, able to use his pupil techniques however he wanted, completely without worrying about blindness. Not only that, Uchiha Yujin sensed other changes in himself, and he raised his hand. I seem to be able to do this too. As soon as he finished speaking, a tree branch suddenly sprouted from the ground beneath his palm. The branch quickly transformed into a towering giant tree in a short amount of time. would release. This is the bloodline limit that rivaled the Sharingan for 1,000 years. He didn't have the hand seals for wood release, but simply making trees grow from the ground, he could still do that. He couldn't possibly not be able to. Even Yamato could do it. There's no reason the purple level Senju bloodline trait couldn't. However, he could feel that his current wood release power was only comparable to Yamato's. It was fine for planting trees, but truly fighting tailed beasts, it was still insufficient. However, he didn't care and immediately began to experience the changes brought by the other trait. The changes from natural energy will have to be sensed after returning to Konoha and cultivating diligently to see exactly what they are. The changes brought by the uprated natural energy trait were not felt deeply. Chakra did indeed increase to some extent, but the surge in chakra brought about by the increased life force from the Senju bloodline trait upgrade was more obvious. This aspect he would leave for now. Anyway, he could feel that his chakra would greatly increase in the coming time. As for being affinity with nature and capturing natural energy, that required meditating with a calm heart, and he was still on his way now. He planned to experience it after returning. Now there's only one last trait that needs to be upgraded. There was nothing more to say. Chakra Seed Green became Chakra Seed Blue. Your own unique chakra source, no one can take it away. Effect: simulates yin-yang 5 elements, capable of fusion and transformation. Transformation's lava release, wood release. After this trait was installed, Uchiha Yujin could feel it. His ninjutsu would all be strengthened. Blue level traits represent a level capable of being used in combat. He had already figured out what the so-called chakra seed was. My own chakra source means that my chakra is no longer Kaguya-Hime's chakra. Uchiha Yujin was thoughtful. The upgraded trait brought him deeper insights. Having his own chakra source meant that the jutsu he used from now on would gain a power increase of more than 20%. The reason was simple. No matter how you looked at it, the chakra he had used before belonged to Otsutsuki Kaguya. There was no doubt about that. Although chakra was nominally refined by the ninjas themselves, in the later stages of Shippuden, it was made very clear. All of this was distributed to everyone by the Six Paths Sage, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, after splitting it from the Ten Tails. Yujin let out a light breath. Although his combat value had changed from 2,570 to 470, however, this expenditure was worth it. He believed that after returning to Konoha and undergoing a period of training to digest the upgraded traits, his strength, if not undergoing earth-shattering changes, would also be greatly enhanced. His abilities in all aspects would see growth. Clang! Uchiha Yujin drew his ninja sword. Next is the change in my weapon. #50 Chapter 50. Meeting the Hokage to receive rewards. This ninja sword is very easy to use. Made from chakra metal during this time, its help to me has been immense. Its indestructible nature allows me to use it without any reservations. No matter how roughly chakra is input, it can silently endure it. Even if damaged, a little blood can restore it. He plans to continue strengthening this weapon. The stronger the weapon, the stronger he will become. Clearing his thoughts, his mind stirred. The 3 entries, Thunder Attachment Blue, Chakra Mimicry Blue, and Chakra Absorption and Integration Blue, trembled slightly. 3 streams of blue light slid out from the panel and slowly flowed into the ninja sword in his hand. After the ninja sword trembled for a moment, it emitted a faint blue light. After the light disappeared, the Uchigatana-style ninja sword did not show any significant changes in appearance, but on the blade, lightning-like etchings were visible. Uchiha Yujin raised the ninja sword, and chakra gathered towards it. Let me see what kind of changes you've undergone. Clang clang. After 2 sounds, a large mass of chakra gathered on the ninja sword. Is this the ability of Hurame-kiri? Yujin thought as he swung the ninja sword in his hand. As the ninja sword was swung, a huge pit was created in the ground ahead. It really inherited Hurame-kiri's chakra materialization, so the next change the ninja sword naturally changed according to Uchiha Yujin's will. Rip! The ninja sword grew larger and longer as if it had super expansion jutsu. Under the continuous input of chakra from Yujin, the ninja sword turned into a 5-meter-long giant blade. He could feel that it could become even larger, but if it did, his hand wouldn't be able to hold it. I've tested Hurame-kiri's ability. Next as the sword moved as his will dictated, the crackling sound of lightning rang out from the ninja sword. When Uchiha Yujin saw the flashing bursts of lightning on the ninja sword, he knew his ninja sword had also completely inherited the ability of the lightning blade Kiba. Samhata's chakra absorption. There's no test subject for now, so I'll worry about that later. After taking stock of his gains, Uchiha Yujin immediately got up. The changes in the entries, the changes in the ninja sword. He wanted to conduct more detailed research and processing after returning to Konoha. Immediately, he set off, picking up his pace. 2 days later, he arrived at the gates of Konoha. After politely greeting the security force members guarding the gate, Uchiha Yujin walked towards the Hokage building. He walked and sighed at the same time. He hadn't expected that the current guarding rights for Konoha's gates were in the hands of the Uchiha. This Uchiha security force is really not simple. When he used to watch the anime of the original work, he just felt that the Uchiha, as one of the 2 great clans that founded the ninja village, were doing quite poorly. After truly being reincarnated as an Uchiha, he only then realized just what kind of monstrous department the security force was. Naruto is a Japanese manga. Naturally, it would inherit a bit of the Japanese worldview. Similarly, Konoha's security force is equivalent to Tokyo's police system, and just how much power the system holds, everyone knows it well. At that time, Uchiha Yujin understood why the Uchiha were hated and ostracized by all of Konoha. Konoha's pie of interest is only that big. You Uchiha have so much power, yet you don't share. If the higher-ups and other ninja clans don't ostracize you, who will they ostracize? They damn well occupy the core area of Konoha and only do business within their own clan. What exactly is the intention behind creating this village within a village? However, now he had sufficient strength. Plus, he was taught a lesson by Danzo Shimura this time. This lesson taught him that sometimes you need a little power too. Otherwise, no matter how strong you are, if you don't flip the table, it will be incredibly uncomfortable. And as a legitimate successor of the Hokage lineage, flipping the table was not something he considered. There was no way he was a proper successor. He couldn't really flip the table, could he? Therefore, he set his eyes on the power of the security force. And to want the power of the security force, you first have to be an Uchiha. Coincidentally, he happened to be one. While being an Uchiha, you also need to have powerful strength. Even more coincidentally, his main Jikayo Sharingan to the Uchiha was proof of strength. Even more coincidentally, possessing these, he wanted to devour Uchiha Satsuna's clan power. There was no way, because his relationship with Fugaku was good, and this old guy, Uchiha Satsuno, while having a bad relationship with him, was also a hawk, and didn't have a very good relationship with his Hokage lineage. If he took him down, Hiruzen Sarutobi would probably be happy to see it happen. The reason was simple. Hiruzen Sarutobi was not a Hokage known for his strength, but a Hokage famous for his political achievements. Although in Uchiha Yujin's eyes, these political achievements were truly not that great, but for a ninja village system that had only been established for a few decades, it was considered decent. There was no way you couldn't expect the mercenaries who used to operate in family units to have much vision, and Hiruzen Sarutobi, who had achievements in politics, would likely welcome his disciples and grand disciples gaining control of a part of the security force's power. He would probably clap his hands in approval. The security force had always been the Uchiha's private domain, and the village could not interfere at all. And for him, as his disciple's disciple, to truly take down a part of the security force's power. For the Hokage, his control over Konoha would become even deeper, and given Hiruzen Sarutobi's desire for control over Konoha, there was no reason for him to stop him. Clearing his thoughts, Uchiha Yujin walked into the Hokage building. He had already decided that when he reported the mission and received the reward later, he would bring this matter up. Following the guidance of the Hokage building staff, Uchiha Yujin appeared before Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hokage-sama. Uchiha Yujin bowed to Hiruzen Sarutobi. Raise your head, Yujin-kun. Hiruzen Sarutobi put down his pipe with a smile. You are the grand disciple of my disciple Jiraiya. There's no need for us to be so formal. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Uchiha Yujin followed the cue and raised his head. Then he took out a scroll from his chest. This is a more detailed report on a hidden mist attack. This report was the reason for his return, although the previous impeachment also mentioned some parts, but the main content was the impeachment of Danzo. This current report of his was a more detailed battle analysis. It included his own perspective, as well as the perspective obtained by the intelligence squad from the enemy's minds. Good, I need to examine this scroll carefully. Hiruzen Sarutobi took the scroll, pointed to a chair beside the desk, and said to Yujin, Yujin-kun, please sit and wait for a moment. Yes, Hokage-sama. Next, Hiruzen Sarutobi carefully read the report. The more he read, the more confused he became. He already found the previous brief report incredible. Now this scroll, from the perspective of Uchiha Yujin and the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, made him even more astonished. Boy, tell me, in the perspective above, was that inexplicable luck of yours the power of the main Jikayo? Upon hearing this, Uchiha Yujin responded in a deep voice, "That is my ocular jutsu. It's a genjutsu type, capable of making men see unbreakable illusions. And I, being clear-headed, could naturally calmly cut them down, which is why it looked like good luck." This was a lie. How could he possibly reveal his ocular jutsu? The excuse of genjutsu was enough. After all, those guys' failures looked like sheer foolishness. It could indeed be explained as genjutsu. Hearing Yujin's explanation, "Genjutsu, huh? A good ocular jutsu." Hiruzen Sarutobi breathed a sigh of relief regarding the reward for this incident. "What do you want?" Upon hearing this, Uchiha Yujin's eyes lit up.
Thanks for joining Fanfiction Reader. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe and come back for more fan-made adventures.